Good morning, everyone. I need to read this notice. Notice is hereby given that a special meeting of the Franklin Beer Board will be held via electronic meeting on the 8th day of October 2020 at 11 a.m. for the purpose of considering any and all matters brought to the attention that shall include but not limited to the following. I need to do also a roll call vote at this particular time. Alderman Bransford, are you here?
Present.
Alderman Martin, are you here?
Present.
Chairman is here. Everyone is present. Next thing on the agenda is to call the meeting to, read item number 1, and that is consideration of resolution 2020-209, a resolution declaring that the Beer Board shall meet on October the 8th, 2020 and conduct its essential business by electronic means rather than being required to gather a quorum of the members physically present in the same location, because it is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 virus. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Let's do a roll call vote. Alderman Bransford, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Alderman Martin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Let's go ahead and go to item 2, which is consideration of the beer permit revocation or suspension of the following permit. This is case number 20-01. The business name is the Tin Roof 2. Permit number 06-24, and the owner's name is T.R. Franklin, Inc. The address is 9135 Carruthers Parkway, Suite 100, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067. Bill Squire, City Attorney, you will make a short presentation. Are you up? Ready?
I am, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the Beer Board, everyone gathered, thank you for being here. As you know, there is a notice of violation and order to show cause presently before the Beer Board. I'm speaking primarily to the Beer Board members. I want to give you some information and kind of bring you up to speed. Here's where we are as of today. Here's what you're hearing. Prior to today, the Franklin Police Department and agents of the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission, which I'm going to call the TABC from here going forward, just so you know, have performed investigations at this particular establishment. Before today, when the information from those investigations was presented to the TABC, last Friday, the TABC summarily suspended the permittee's liquor license. Yesterday, when those same facts and results from investigations were presented to the Williamson County Circuit Court by the City of Franklin through its city attorney and the district attorney who joined us in the lawsuit, the judge issued a writ finding probable cause that the Tin Roof 2 was a public nuisance and requiring the business to be immediately closed and padlocked. You may have seen this on the news. The business is closed and padlocked until Monday morning when a further hearing will take place. As I mentioned, that lawsuit was filed by the city and joined by the district attorney's office as well. What's before you today is a different animal. It's a notice of violation of beer permit rules. As you know, the permittee and owner hold a beer permit, and the allegations from the city are that they have violated the rules that are found in the beer ordinance itself. To be clear, what the city is asking for you to do today, after you consider everything that's presented, is to revoke the permittee's beer permit. That is separate from the liquor license, and that is separate from the padlock order that you may have heard about. This is an action purely for you all. I want to talk a little bit about how the show cause order came about and how it was served. The permittee was provided the notice of violation and show cause order on Friday evening. The beer ordinance requires at least 5 days notice. Now, I do recognize that you all may have received a letter from counsel for the permittee which suggested that a certain rule of the Tennessee Rules of Civil Procedure would suggest the counting of 5 days happened a different way. I want to be clear with you all that the position of the city is that Rule 1, actually, the scope of the Tennessee Rules of Civil Procedure, makes very clear that those rules apply in circuit and chancery courts and in general sessions court occasionally. But of course, you all are not the circuit court, the chancery court, or a general sessions court. The ordinance says simply 5 days, and generally counting, or not generally, actually received 6 days notice. It was delivered Friday evening. Now, I don't want to drone on too much. I'll give you a little thumbnail of what I plan to present for you all to consider. I've got 4 individuals here, 3 sergeants who are from the Franklin Police Department to provide information, and a special agent from the TABC who performed an investigation, and he too will provide information for you all. I want to make clear to you all, though, what it is you're considering. This is from the beer ordinance. The violation that's been named is Section 8-22610 of the Franklin Municipal Code. That particular section says the permittee has violated the beer ordinance if they allow the place of business to become a public nuisance, they allow the place of business to become a nuisance to law enforcing agencies, they create a nuisance, or they materially contribute to creating or maintaining a public nuisance. That is the scope of what is before you all today. After the information has been presented and you all deliberate on what you've seen, that's the question before you. Have those things taken place? If so, then there's been a violation of the beer ordinance, is the position of the city. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about what a public nuisance means. Generally speaking, what you are listening for are facts that suggest lewdness or prostitution at the establishment, unlawful sale of alcohol or drugs, unlawful gambling, sale or exhibition of obscene or pornographic materials, but most importantly, in addition to potentially lewdness, quarreling, drunkenness, fighting, or breaches of the peace that are carried on or permitted by the establishment. I think you're going to hear quite a bit of information about those things, in addition to potentially some lewdness as well. But that's the public nuisance part of this. If I could go back, Section 8-22610 also includes simply being a nuisance to law enforcing agencies. In other words, being a drain on their resources. And I think you're going to hear information from the police department that will make clear that is taking place. Having said that, the folks that I'm going to have you receive information from are Sergeant Matt Smalley from the police department, the Franklin Police Department, Sergeant Jack Morgan, Sergeant Herman Gomez, and Special Agent Ross Lamplight. I'm going to go ahead and begin with Sergeant Smalley. Sergeant Matt Smalley is a crime analyst with the Franklin Police Department. He's going to explain to you what CAD and RMS data is. It's some data tracking information the police use to track police calls and reports to them. He's going to tell you what that is, what it means, and what the reports look like that come from it. He's going to describe to you incidents compared to similar establishments, and he's going to tell you a little bit about who he is and how he got involved, and how he got the info that he did provided to Sergeant Morgan, who will also testify later. For those giving testimony, there is a court reporter on the line. I believe I saw Amber. Amber, are you there?
I am, yes.
All right. So Ms. Thompson is a court reporter. She will swear you in before you testify. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sergeant Matt Smalley. Amber, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Squires, I'm sorry if I may, and sorry to cut you off. I'm unfamiliar with the process here. I understand that Mr. Squires had an opening. Do we get a chance to open as well, or do we just need to wait our turn?
Generally speaking, I'm going to present my information. This is really for information to be presented to the beer board. Once the witness has provided whatever they're going to, if I think there are any questions I need to bring out something that they've said, I'll do that. Then you have an opportunity to cross-examine them if you wish. I'll do my side of this essentially first, and then the chair will turn it over to you to do the same. And following that, the beer board will have their deliberation free of our intrusion so they can speak. And if they have questions, certainly they can ask as well. Does that
Okay.
answer your question, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Mr. Smalley, if you could raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Hello, everyone. I am Sergeant Matt Smalley. I work for the Franklin Police Department. I've been employed by the Franklin Police Department for the past 16 years. I'm currently assigned to the Office of Professional Standards, or as Mr. Squires indicated, one of my responsibilities is to serve as the department's crime analyst. So as a part of that job, I regularly gather crime and traffic data, produce reports, and address any special inquiries from members of the department or others in reference to crime statistics. And I also help manage some of our department's computer systems, including the database where we keep all of our offense reports. So to summarize quickly my involvement in this particular issue, earlier this year, there were some personnel in our department who noticed what appeared to be an increase in calls for service and also reports associated with the tin roof. So I was asked by Chief Faulkner in early June, somewhere around that time frame, to look at some preliminary data to address that anecdotal evidence that the tin roof seemed to be generating more calls for service and reports than other establishments in the city. So to do that, I looked in two different computer systems, which I'll explain to you briefly so you have a handle on where this data comes from. The first system were the calls for service in our computer-aided dispatch system, which you may hear referred to as CAD. This system tracks every activity performed by police officers. It includes not only calls for service from the public, where someone may call into 911 or the non-emergency number and ask for help, but also includes self-initiated activities by police officers. So for example, if an officer conducts a traffic stop on a car or gets out of his car and does proactive foot patrol, that would also be recorded in that system. The other major system that we use would be our records management system, which you may hear referred to as RMS. This is basically where all of our police reports are kept. So this includes reports we complete for criminal offenses and arrests as well. So since not every call for service necessarily results in a police report, it's always good to look in both systems to get a fuller picture whenever you're trying to look at any data. So back in June at Chief Faulkner's request, I pulled that preliminary data from both systems. And what I saw was it looked like significantly more reports and calls for service were being generated at the Tin Roof's address than other similar establishments. I believe back then it showed the next closest was 4 times fewer calls for service and or reports. So that to me confirmed the existence of at least an issue that would be worthy of monitoring and digging into for further investigation. So shortly thereafter, Sergeant Morgan, who's a supervisor in our criminal investigations division, who's, by the way, also equally versed in our computer systems as I am, he subsequently took on the task of expanding the time frame of what I had found, gathering additional data, took the time to review individual reports and narratives and provide a more thorough breakdown of calls and reports linked to the tin roof. So I won't step on his toes. You'll hear from him shortly. But since I initially looked into this issue, my role has been to be kept in the loop on all of Sergeant Morgan's findings. And I've also independently pulled some of the same data when I was requested to do so. And everything I have ever pulled has been consistent with the findings of Sergeant Morgan that he'll present to you shortly. So I'll leave that to him to explain. And in a nutshell, that explains my entire involvement with this issue.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Smalley. Sergeant Smalley, I wanted to ask just one quick question. I know you mentioned you pulled numbers. Do you have the actual total numbers, or did you just provide the information straight across to Sergeant Morgan?
We actually pulled the numbers simultaneously, and he'll give you the in detail numbers, but I found the same numbers that he did. So I wouldn't be providing any new information other than what's in his report.
Okay, but your numbers matched his, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no further questions for Sergeant Smalley.
Sergeant Smalley, Kevin Thompson here. I'm representing Tin Roof 2 and the owners.
Hello.
First of all, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great. I didn't quite understand the search parameters? Did you pull a report from January until late September?
Initially, when I was asked by Chief Faulkner to look at numbers, she actually asked me to look at the past 18 months or so at that time. So from early June, that would have been going back probably to January of 2019, just to get some kind of idea over the past year and a half of what the numbers look like.
And when you're pulling data, are you able to see the time the incidents are reported as well?
I am.
So I've got two questions along those lines. As you're looking at the data, did you see a particular period of time when the number of incidents increased?
At the time I was asked to pull the data, I was only looking at raw numbers at that point. I wasn't asked to perform any type of analysis related to the times of day. I was really performing just a preliminary look at the data to see if perhaps there was a problem that required further exploration. But you're able to segment the incidents by month, right? January, February, March? I could, yes.
Did you notice an increase in incidents around a particular time frame?
I did not by looking at my data.
So you didn't notice an increase from March, when the pandemic started, from May to September, you didn't notice any increases in numbers?
No, I didn't, but I do want to be fair to you. I wasn't looking for particular time frames. At that time, I was just asked to pull preliminary data.
Okay, just a global number.
Correct. So I wasn't looking for any patterns or any particular in the data at that particular time.
So you're not able to testify if the majority of these incidents happened after 11 o'clock, as an example?
No, I could not. I could have access to that data, but I don't have that today.
Does anybody have that data?
I'll have to defer to Sergeant Morgan to what he has in his report. His are the more recent numbers that we're looking into.
Okay, thanks. I have no further questions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the Beer Board, I'm going to turn to Sergeant Jack Morgan now. Sergeant Morgan is going to explain to you what his role with the police department is, how he got the information from Sergeant Smalley. He performed a deeper dive or an analysis into the data to kind of break it out a little better. He compared calls to actual incident reports. He'll tell you about that and the arrests that took place. And he's going to tell you what that revealed and what those numbers for the year to date look like. Sergeant Smalley, are you there? Can you go ahead?
You talk about Sergeant Morgan?
I'm sorry, I said Smalley. Sergeant Morgan, yes, go ahead.
Can you raise your right hand, please, sir?
Jack Morgan.
Oh, can you raise your right hand? Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. My name is Sergeant Morgan, with the Franklin Police Department. I've been a police officer for over 30 years. I've been with the Franklin Police Department for 23. I'm currently assigned to the Criminal Investigations Division. As one of the things that I was asked to do was to conduct an analysis of the data that was pulled in regards to the Tin Roof 2. The analysis was conducted from January 1 of this year to 9/30 of this year. And during that time, the business address of the Tin Roof 2 generated a total of 296 calls in our CAD system. 61 of those calls involved intoxicated persons, fight, disorder, unwanted subjects, and assault complaints. Another 31 involved suspicious persons, vehicle calls, and check areas. 92 calls were miscellaneous type calls involving theft, assist other agencies, citizen assist, property calls, and BOLOs. Another 112 were proactive police activities, which include extra patrols, follow-up reports, and traffic stops. Of those 296 calls, 72 incident reports were generated off of those. The breakdown of those are 11 simple assaults, 2 aggravated assaults, 23 driving under the influences, 2 rapes that were connected to the location, 14 disorderly conducts, 4 thefts, 1 public indecency, 1 vandalism, 8 public intoxications, 2 firearms possessions involving where alcoholic beverages were sold, 3 drug-related charges involving a simple possession, and 1 domestic related incident that occurred within the property.
And Sergeant Morgan, I know you talked about total calls of 296 and then actual incident reports of 72, and you just broke those down. Thank you. Which of those generated arrests, or can you give us an idea about that, the incident reports, the 72?
Yeah, hope you'll give me 1 second. I was able to pull up that data. "57 arrests were made as a result of those incidents."
And I was going to ask you a little bit about your process. I understand you got the information from Sergeant Smalley. That's what we're hearing. You had 296 calls that broke down to 72 incident reports and then 57 arrests since January. How did you break that out into the list you just read, say the 23 DUIs? How did you correlate that into that number?
I used a process in which I searched our computer generated RMS system using the address and then also searching the narrative portion of the reports for the term tin roof. That produced more reports, and then through analyzing the individual reports, I was able to determine that several of them were not actually related to the business. So I actually reviewed each one of these reports and determined it based on that. Of the 23 DUIs, each one of those indicated that they had been drinking at the Tin Roof establishment prior to being stopped by law enforcement.
Okay. No further questions. Mr. Thompson, if you'd like.
Thank you. Hey, Sergeant Morgan, thank you for being here. I don't know if you have much choice, right? And I apologize, I don't know quite as much as Mr. Squires. We haven't seen any of the police reports or actually any information in their possession. Mr. Squires, if you'd be so kind as to send that to myself and Mr. Meisner at some point, we'd appreciate it. Mr. Morgan, 30 years of service, that's remarkable. 23 years specifically in Franklin. You've been familiar with the Tin Roof too in this community, I assume.
Yes.
And based on their 15-year history, has there ever been an issue in your mind where these guys are a problem?
Well, one of the things that I did prior to doing this complete analysis is I also reviewed police reports for several other similar type businesses.
That's not my question, and I will go there. I understand. I'm not talking about this bizarre pandemic period that we're in from May until now. I'm talking about just in your experience of 23 years in Franklin, with them being in business for 15 of those years. This is atypical, is my question. Do you consider this recent issues that we're experiencing here atypical?
Yeah, I would say that the increase, I still believe though that the increase is something that has to be looked at. Because
absolutely. Yes,
I think that the increase hasn't been addressed properly.
Understood.
Because of like I did look at the other data for other places, and this is far, far exceeds what other places have had in our city.
I understand. And let's go there. So you seem to have a granular access to these incident reports and the data. Am I correct to assume that?
That's correct.
Do you see a pattern as far as the timing when this all typically occurs?
There was a definite increase after May, if I remember right from my first report.
Okay, so you anticipated my next question, but the other question was as far as these 72 incident reports, what I'm getting at is what time of day?
I haven't broken it down to time of day.
I'm going to ask you to speculate. Would you assume that most of these things happen after 11 o'clock?
I'm going to intrude and ask that we not ask for speculation. The key being that this isn't a trial, but most importantly, the Beer Board needs actual information to consider, and speculation is difficult to work with. So if we could keep our questions to actual factual information, that would be great.
Understood. Back to you, Mr. Morgan. Did you observe that the majority of these incidents happened after 11 o'clock?
Honestly, I did not look at any of the time of day in regards to these incidents. I looked at the nature of the incidents, the location.
Do you have access to that data right now where perhaps we could follow up with you later during this hearing?
It would take a little bit of digging because some of the information would have to be rerun to look for the actual dates and time.
Okay, so let's go back to your answer before where you said that the uptick in incidents occurred after May. What's the reason for that?
There could be any number of reasons that I've learned in my years in law enforcement. Some of it could be change in management. Some of it could be changes in what's going on within the country itself or within the city. There's any variables that you could look at. Our job is just to look at the different changes and then try to address what resources we need to apply. And looking at the data, the resources were needed to be applied to that location.
Fair enough. My last question is, based on your 30 years of experience, have you ever dealt with a situation where one county closes its bars at 10:30 while the other county remains open?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Morgan. Ladies and gentlemen of the Beer Board, I'm going to move on to Sergeant Gomez. He's going to explain to you who he is and what his role with the Franklin Police Department entails, how he got involved here. And he's going to describe to you an assignment to a particular task force or some tasks that he was given by Chief Faulkner of the police department. He's going to tell you a little bit about what they did and when they did that. And he's going to share with you some firsthand observations and concerns that he had from being at the establishment. Sergeant Gomez, if you could raise your right hand, the court reporter will swear you in and then you can go.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Hello, my name is Herman Gomez, and I am a sergeant with the Franklin Police Department. I've been with the police department for the last 15 and a half years, going on 16. In early to mid-September, Chief Faulkner called me in her office and asked if I'd be willing to supervise a detail to address the issues that were happening there in and around the tin roof. I volunteered to supervise that detail, and me, along with multiple other officers, for a period of 2 weekends, Friday and Saturday nights, conducted a little operation there to identify the different crimes that were being committed and to address those. So September 18th and 19th was our first weekend. We did that Friday night from 9 p.m. to 3 in the morning, and again on the 19th, and then again the next weekend, the 25th to the 26th. And a lot of issues that we found were, I'll just go off a list here that I have, multiple incidents of people carrying open containers in and around the business, multiple issues with public urination. The Tin Roof, they have now they have a line to get in, a wait line, and as that line increased, more people were needed to use the restroom and had nowhere to go, so they were urinating in bushes, in and around cars, things of that nature. We had a couple of incidents of disorderly conduct, which included fighting within the bar. They were kicked out, continued to fight, or fighting out in the parking lot. There were a couple of incidents of drug possession, simple possession of marijuana and different ones of cocaine. Multiple DUIs that stemmed from people drinking at the Tin Roof, and also an officer that was assaulted during the arrest of a DUI subject in the parking lot. Had one incident where I found a couple having oral sex in a vehicle, which later turned into an allegation of sexual assault due to her level of intoxication. Multiple incidents of public intoxication, and also two incidents of where some of the staff was intoxicated and came out into the area of the public. And I can go into more detail on each individual day if you like, but that is some of the overall incidents that we found working those 2 weekends there in and around the Tin Roof.
Sergeant Gomez, how many people were on that task force with you? Or I'm calling it a task force, a group of individuals with you?
Yes, it was myself and 6 other officers. And during that time, we had different assignments. We had 2 officers that were from traffic that were to focus in and around the Tin Roof for driving violations such as DUIs and things like that. And then myself and 4 other officers that were within the perimeter addressing issues in the parking lot.
If you would go into a little bit more detail about, and obviously I don't mean sort of gory detail, but if you could explain a little bit about, you described an oral sex encounter, but it turned into something else. If you could explain what that's about.
Correct. Let me find out exactly which night that was. It was Friday, September 25th. And it was me who found the couple in the vehicle. The male was performing oral sex on the female. Identified both individuals. Both individuals were inside the Tin Roof and then came out into their car. It come to find out later during the investigation that they didn't know each other. The female was extremely intoxicated. We offered her multiple times to take her up to the front of the bar in order so she can find an Uber or her friends. And she decided that she was going to go with this individual. And later on in the evening, she had returned back to the Tin Roof and was dropped off. After further investigating the incident, EMS was called because she had some sort of seizure. I then found her friends and kind of got an idea or a timeline of what had happened. After she and the individual were released from my incident, they left, and about 3 hours later, her friends received a phone call from her phone and asking where her friends were so they can come drop her off. They had found that female on a sidewalk in front of a library. I don't know if it was in Franklin or in Brentwood. I know it's still under investigation, but they found her in front of a library on the sidewalk with her purse was empty, and she didn't have any of her belongings. Once they returned to the Tin Roof, there at the Tin Roof, she did have some sort of seizure. She was transported to EMS, and then later alleged that she was sexually assaulted, that she didn't give consent.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is that the only instance of sexual behavior in or around the premises that you're aware of?
For those 4 days that I worked, yes.
Are you aware of any other instances of sexual behavior in or around the premises?
The only other, when I was briefed on this situation, there was a video that, and I don't know, I can't remember what time of day it was, but where there was different types of oral sex performed inside the bar, on one of the tables or near one of the tables. I wasn't able to tell exactly what time of day, but I did see the video to where the oral sex incident happened.
And have you been in the bar?
I have.
Okay. the video you're describing, obviously we're not looking at it. Did you recognize the location that you saw in that video?
Yes.
And where was that location? If you could just.
I believe to me it was in front of the bar, inside in the tin roof.
Okay. No further questions, Mr. Thompson, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, Officer Gomez.
Good morning.
You mentioned public urination outside because of the line. Do you know why there was a line outside the bar? Were they
Yes, I
restricting
know.
access?
Before I started this detail, I've heard from different officers that the tin roof was getting overcrowded, and an issue was with capacity. So at the time that issue was addressed with the staff, they began to let fewer people in, more people out, in order to keep that overcrowding down, which caused the line to get into the tin roof.
So we're not arguing whether the line was a good thing or a bad thing. It was necessary to limit capacity, correct?
Yes, it was a result of limiting the capacity.
Okay. And you're not blaming the tin roof for the public urination problem with that issue, are you?
Well, I don't think they were able to enter the tin roof. There was multiple times where they asked to enter just to go use the restroom when they weren't allowed. But there are no other open businesses other than a gas station, probably a block away.
Okay. Regarding some of the incidents that you observed during these 2 weekends, can you give us a feel, give the board a feel for violations that you observed inside the bar versus the parking lot, just so we can understand the distinction here?
Yes, during the 4 days that I worked, we never went into the bar at that point. The incidents that we dealt with were brought to us outside of the establishment. So if two people were fighting inside, the bouncers would escort them out and we would address it then. We never went into the bar to do any type of investigation or anything like that. Nor did we have to enter to address any incidents that were occurring in the bar.
Right. Based on your experience as a law enforcement officer, is the bar responsible for activities that happen in a parking lot owned by somebody else?
That's the only business that's open during those hours. And the issues that are occurring outside of that parking lot are stemming from that business. I don't know if you can directly blame them, but I mean, that is a result of that business being open during those times.
Okay. Can you name these other officers that were with you during these weekends?
Yes, I had different officers, different nights. I would have to compile a list. But some of the officers that I can name off the top of my head were from like the traffic division, were Officer Gibbs, Officer Gibson, Officer Savage, and Officer Tuck. And the officers that worked there in the parking lot with me were Officer Alexander, Officer Brooks, Officer Hutchinson, and I believe one of the nights was MPO Lamar.
Okay, thank you for that. Are you able to state with certainty that the behavior in the parking lot really did stem from activities in the bar, or is it possible that some people got inebriated in Nashville and then came south?
That is possible. I think it's twofold. The issues that we dealt with the public intoxications or the disorderly conducts, those were coming out directly out from the bar. The issues with the public urination, the open container, and things like that, those were stemming from the people coming from Nashville in Ubers. They've been drinking all the way down from Nashville, and they get there and have to wait in a 2-hour line. Now they have to use the restroom. So I think it's
fair enough. Is it not possible that some of these people walking out of Tin Roof 2 and causing trouble are some of those people from Nashville?
Oh, I'm sure they could be. I mean, and we met.
So you're not able to tell. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're not able to tell somebody walking in the Tin Roof bar. You don't know where they've been prior.
Correct.
Okay. Regarding the sexual assault allegation, I'm not familiar with that, so I apologize for my lack of info there. Who called the police? Or was that reported to the police? And if it was, who initiated the call?
It was reported to the police after the female in question got to the emergency room and had spoken with her mother. She is an adult, obviously, but the police were called to the emergency room to take the initial report. And I believe midnight shift.
Did anyone at Tin Roof 2 call? Were they aware of this happening?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. You might have already said this. How long have you been an officer in Franklin?
We're going on 16 years.
Okay. Based on your experience, has Tin Roof 2 been a good local citizen for the most part up until some of these issues that we're dealing with now?
For the most part, yes. Initially, when the Tin Roof first opened, I think we had a lot of these same issues, but I think that that was a result of it being the only nightlife in Franklin. But initially, like the first few months that they did open, I was part of a special detail that was tasked to kind of address those issues that were coming out. And we experienced a lot of the same things early on. But as you said, in the middle of that, overall, it has not been a constant problem.
Okay. Based on your experience, what sort of suggestions would you have? And actually, we have one of Tin Roof 2's head door guys on, Mr. Stacy. Were they not, once, let's say somebody gets thrown out of the bar for causing trouble in the bar, what are they supposed to do after?
If they get caught, they get kicked out for causing a disturbance and they're put out. At that point, it's our issue to address. And we did that on a couple occasions where people were getting violent in the bar, either fighting or causing a disturbance. And as you said, Stacy and his staff would escort those people out. If we could diffuse the situation, de-escalate it, and they could go their separate ways, that's what we did. If they got a safe ride home or somebody to take care of them, we allowed them to leave. However, if they didn't, or if they continued to fight once they exited the establishment, that's when we made the arrests.
So, Mr. Gomez, this is my last question, I think. If you observed all this bad behavior in the parking lot, it's your testimony that, is it your testimony that Tin Roof was somehow over-serving these people and is responsible for what they're doing after they're leaving? Is that your testimony?
In the over-serving topic, I believe there was some over-serving because of the level of intoxication of these people exiting the bar. If we wanted to make an arrest for public intoxication once they exited the bar, we could have depleted our numbers of officers within a short period of time. So our job was, I instructed my officers, like if they're intoxicated, they leave this bar, but they can get it directly into an Uber and they have somebody that's going to take care of them. That's what we're going to allow them to do. The ones that were not able to take care of themselves and had no responsible party with them or could not find an Uber, those are the ones that went to jail.
Thanks for that. Are you familiar with Mr. Stacy or Mr. Jacob, the door guys at the Tin Roof 2 at all?
Yes.
Do you have an opinion as far as how they're doing their jobs?
I think our first night there, they were overwhelmed a little bit of the size of the group of people that were coming into the Tin Roof or coming to the Tin Roof. A lot of the issues that they weren't addressing, we initially addressed, like having open containers in the wait line. After they saw us addressing it, the staff did step up and they started to address it themselves in order for us not to have to get involved.
Has your relationship, have you and your friends, colleagues in law enforcement, for the most part, have you guys had a good relationship with the people at Tin Roof 2?
Yes.
Okay. And I know I lied when I said last question. I think
that's fine.
That might, let me think about this before I let you go, because once I let you go, I can't get you back. Do you think this problem gets solved the moment Davidson County lifts up their curfew?
Well, I guess that would be my opinion.
I'm sorry, Sergeant, if I could intrude again. Yes. We're asking for speculation, and I don't know that Sergeant Gomez can say what will happen if something happens in the future. I'm concerned the beer board needs to hear factual information that the sergeant really can talk about.
I think his experience as an officer for 16 years has relevance on that very question.
If that's it, Sergeant Gomez, if you're comfortable answering that, go right ahead. I don't want you to sort of shoot into the dark and make up an answer you don't really feel good about.
No, that's fine. It would be speculation on my part. I do have my own personal opinion, but my job, and I was assigned to look at facts. And the thing I can address in that regard is at 11 o'clock or 10:30, 11 o'clock, when the bars did close in Nashville, we saw an influx of people arrive at the Tin Roof in Ubers, cabs, and vehicles, which caused that line to grow.
Thank you, Sergeant. I appreciate that. I have no further questions.
Sergeant, if I could ask just a couple of quick questions.
Yes, sir.
Just to make sure I understand what you're saying, what the beer board understands what you're saying. You're describing a line outside. Based on your firsthand observations of being there, did the folks that run or own the Tin Roof, the managing folks, did they know about the line that was outside?
Yes, they were having to, well, I guess, keep a few people there at the door in order to keep people from just walking in. They were checking IDs and only allowing so many people in at a time based on the capacity. So the line was directly in front of them. So yes, they did.
Okay, and did you observe or could you tell, were those folks there purely in line to get into the Tin Roof? Was that their only purpose being there?
Correct.
So the folks in line came there to go to the Tin Roof too, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, no further questions.
Mr. Squires, sorry, can I ask one more follow-up?
Sure.
Yeah, and I apologize for the lack of understanding of the format here. Herman, I was kidding. So you did testify about oral sex happening on premise. I do want to address that allegation. You referenced a video, correct? That you saw?
Yes.
To your knowledge, was that the result of something the bar did or asked for, or was a part of?
I didn't see any of the staff members taking part in the.
Okay. And are you aware of what happened after the end of the video? Are you aware that those people were literally thrown out of the bar?
No, I did not know that.
That's it.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Gomez. I have no further questions for you, and it sounds like Mr. Thompson is done as well.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Beer Board, I'm going to move on to Special Agent Ross Lampright. I'm determined to say Lamplight, but it is Lampright. He is a special agent with the Law Enforcement Division of the TABC. He's going to share with you investigations that he performed, how they got involved. He's going to describe to you the nature of the investigation they did and what he did as part of that investigation. And then he's going to share with you some specific concerns, things that he saw firsthand from being at the Tin Roof to when he was doing that investigation. Special Agent Lampright, if you would raise your right hand for the court reporter and then go from there.
He's still on mute and we can't see his video as well.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Am I coming through? I'm having a difficulty with my camera. I'm not sure. Tried to fix it while we were having the meeting and I was unsuccessful. Is it going to pose a huge problem?
No, we would prefer there be video, but if that's the best you can do at the moment, that's all right.
Thank you. I do apologize for it.
Okay, if you will raise your right hand.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, ma'am. Thank you, Bill. My name is Special Agent Lampright. I've been a special agent with the TABC for about a year and a half. Prior to my employment, I was a patrol officer with the Columbia Police Department. My main focus is to enforcing rules and regulations pertaining to TABC licensees and any criminal violations in which we come across, specifically investigations pertaining to our regulatory focus for licensees. So with that being said, I'm just going to walk you through my comprehensive investigation report and kind of walk you through some observations I made as well. And hopefully, it brings to light. It might cover some issues that we've already covered. It may bring other things to light as well. So with that being said, on 8/13 at approximately 11:47, I was requested by my ASAC, Jonathan Swift, and my SAC Koshar, Christopher Koshar, to assist the Franklin Police Department with an investigation pertaining to TBC licensee Tin Roof 2, located off Carruthers. This was the investigation of the request was was in relation to calls for service, nuisance issues, and possible health and public safety violations. Prior to my contact with Lieutenant Justice of the Franklin Police Department, we received a non-associated individual filed a TABC complaint with us in relation to the above stated establishment, which was filed on Monday, August 31st at approximately 07:41 hours or 7:41. The complainant advised that they are an employee with the local ambulance service in Franklin and normally respond to multiple 911 calls for service located at Tin Roof 2 over the course of a weekend. They further stated that this was due to possible irresponsible business practices and public safety issues relating to the above stated TABC licensee. Regularly, the calls for service, medical service that the complainant stated they responded to were as followed: bar fights, tampered/drugged beverages, overly intoxicated and belligerent patrons, and unresponsive patrons due to over-serving and or drug use at the above stated establishment. They continue to advise that they have responded to multiple residences in the surrounding area in which individuals with suspected alcohol poisoning reported being at Tin Roof 2 prior to returning to their residence. Finally, complainants stated that they have responded to several DUI/DWI instances where the individuals involved claimed to be drinking at the establishment stated above, Tin Roof 2, prior to operating a motor vehicle. Due to these actions, the complainant stated that the above establishment needs education upon responsible serving of alcoholic beverages for the safety of the public. Contact was made with the complainant via phone, and the 911 calls of service were requested. At this time, they have not been received. Let's see here. Okay, on that same day, August 31st, at approximately 0900, I made contact with Lieutenant Justice of the Franklin Police Department in relation to the scheduling a meeting relating to the concerns involved with TABC licensee Tin Roof 2. At that time, a meeting was scheduled for Wednesday, September 2nd at approximately 1200 hours or 12 o'clock at the PD. During this conversation, Lieutenant Justice briefly covered the various issues pertaining to Tin Roof 2, in which are as followed: health and public safety violations, exceeding maximum occupancy regulations, underage sales of alcoholic beverages, aggravated/simple assaults, DUIs, DWIs, and illegal drug activity. Lieutenant Justice also advised the city attorney, Shauna Billingsley, emailed the management of Tin Roof 2 about their concerning conduct and that a possible nuisance abatement lawsuit may be forthcoming. Following the conclusion of this conversation, I requested the FPD CAD and RMS calls and other related documentation illustrating the areas of concern. On September 2nd, at approximately 12 o'clock, Special Agent Manning and myself responded to the Franklin Police Department located at 900 Columbia Ave, Franklin, in relation to that scheduled meeting with FPD Lieutenant Tommy Justice, Sergeant Jack Morgan, and Sergeant Clayton Cates. The topic of the meeting was Tin Roof 2 and the areas of concern previously stated. At the beginning of the meeting, we were provided a comprehensive analysis of police activities generated by various establishments that serve alcoholic beverages in the city of Franklin.
Mr. Lampright, I'm sorry
yes.
to interrupt. If you could, I think it would be more useful for the beer board if you could describe your actual appearance at the establishment and what that looked like as part of your investigation.
Yes, sir.
Kind of go to that.
Okay, I wanted to lay down the basics, but I'll go ahead and I'll jump into my observations on September 4th, which move forward a little bit. On On September 4th at approximately 9:30, Special Agent Manning and myself responded to Tin Roof 2 in relation to an ongoing TABC investigation pertaining to the concerns brought forth by the Franklin Police Department and TABC complainant. The concerns are in relation to health. We already know health, public safety violations, exceeding maximum occupancy regulations, underage sales, of alcoholic beverages.
I'm sorry. Could you please slow down just a little bit? I apologize for interrupting.
Oh, not a problem. Sure. The areas of concerns were in relation to public health and safety violations, exceeding maximum occupancy regulations, underage sales of alcoholic beverages, aggravated sexual assaults, DUIs, and illegal drug activity / sales. Upon arrival, contact was made with Sergeant Cates in the parking area located outside the establishment. After a brief discussion, Special Agent Manning and myself proceeded to enter Tin Roof 2, the mission line located in front of the establishment. While waiting for the following entrance into the establishment, I was able to observe several areas of concern. One, security was checking IDs of most but not all patrons entering the establishment. I was able to witness numerous female patrons bypassing security and making entry into the establishment without their IDs being checked. Two, it did not appear that the establishment was adhering to either the normal and or the COVID-19 guidelines at the time pertaining to the 50% maximum capacity at the location. Also, there appeared to be more than 165 patrons, which is their inside maximum capacity, within the establishment and 75 patrons outside. They did appear to exceed both those maximum occupancies set forth by the fire marshal. Now, the admission lines itself did extend from the front of Tin Roof past the Residence Bank into the adjacent Starbucks parking lot, which is across the street, adjacent to the Residence Bank and Tin Roof 2. Not soon after leaving the establishment, both Special Agent Manning and I proceeded to patrol the area around Tin Roof 2 in order to observe any possible criminal and or violations of TBC rules and regulations pertaining to the complaint. At that time, I was able to observe several other areas of concern. One, numerous male and female patrons were observed urinating in the areas directly in front of and behind Tin Roof. This practice may be due to overcrowding issues of the establishment itself. On several different occasions, it did appear that groups of female patrons were observed either being led by an older white male or by themselves to the back alleyway behind Residence Bank in order to make entry into the Tin Roof 2's back door entrance. There did not seem to be any apparent security at the back door area at the time of observation. So, 3, a white female patron leaving Tin Roof 2 was seen to be seemingly overly intoxicated. The white female was unable to maintain their balance and had to be assisted by another individual leaving the establishment with them. As the female was leaving, she was seen apparently lifting her shirt and exposing herself to the patrons awaiting entry into Tin Roof 2. She was also seen yelling and groping male patrons in the admission line while proceeding to leave. Another white female was found to be unconscious outside the front of Tin Roof 2 the same night. Both FPD, EMS, and fire responded to the scene in order to provide care. Lastly, Sergeant Cates informed both Special Agent Manning and I of possible sex acts taking place at Tin Roof 2. At that time, Sergeant Cates showed us a video taken from a social media site of a male patron, Bringle111, possibly at Tin Roof 2, engaged in oral anal sex with another patron. Now, the video itself was it did appear to be a combination of 3 different videos. The first video that was marked, "If you don't have a mask, grab an ass," by Daddy's Juiced, which was the individual that had posted the video, was a white male engaged in sexual oral sex with a female. The second was the same. The second section of that video was a different video that was of the same male engaged in sexual activity, oral sex with another female who was also engaged in oral sex with another female. And the third video was and now the caption for that was on a Sunday. And then the third video was at COVID testing, be like, or at Tin Roof, be like, and it was the individual picking a female's nose and putting it down her throat. Following seeing that video, we concluded our observation for that night, pending investigation, presentment to our legal team following the our documentation. Besides that, we have quite a few follow-up calls, which were pretty much already covered. We can go through that if you guys have any questions. That's kind of it in a nutshell as far as my observation on September 4th.
Thank you, Special Agent Lampright. I just want to have a quick follow-up question. It was one I asked before. The videos that you were looking at, since you had been in the establishment, did you recognize the place inside the establishment where those videos were shot? I mean, could you place it in the building?
Yes, sir, I could. The first video did appear to be, if you were walking into the establishment, it would be on the other side of the bar next to the back patio entrance. There's a little caddy corner area that's private, but still in the front of the bar. That specifically did appear to be the area in which the sex acts did take place. But I am able to identify the location in which the video was taken.
Okay, and you stood in the line. Were the folks in charge of the Tin Roof while you were there, were they aware of the line? Did they know about it?
Seemingly, yes, sir. It was kind of, in my opinion, hard to miss. There was a lot of people shoulder to shoulder. The line did extend from the front entrance all the way down back to where the Starbucks parking lot area it was. It did appear during that same time that there was quite a few individuals shoulder to shoulder inside the establishment itself in the main bar area. When we did make entry, we had a hard enough time just going upstairs, which was seen shoulder to shoulder with other patrons, downstairs in the main bar area, which was shoulder to shoulder with other patrons, and then the back patio area, which was very difficult even to navigate through on that night.
Let me ask this question as well. Do you think the Tin Roof is responsible, or did you see the staff interacting with the folks in the line?
I did. Yes, sir. As far as the females not being, the groups of females that I see not being checked, it did appear that there were, in two separate occasions, a group of females walk up, they make eye contact with the front security individual at that night. They nodded at each other, kind of laughed, and the females made entry. I've seen that on two separate occasions. I don't know if they knew each other or there was some other situations going on, mitigating circumstances, but it did appear that they were well aware of kind of the process in which they had that night.
Okay, I want to ask a question that Mr. Thompson was kind of getting at a minute ago, and I know that being part of TABC, you see more than just Franklin area. Do you think things would change, or do you think issues would change for Tin Roof 2 if Nashville had done things differently, or if they reopened a certain way? What's your thought about that, having been there?
Personally, I think it would be the practices of the management and staff. I think that given my observations, I think some of these things may have been could have definitely been mitigated to a larger degree. But I do personally think that Nashville may have had a play in it, but really this is my speculation and opinion on the matter anyways. mean, looking at the facts that I have presented towards me that night, my observation, I feel that some of these things could have been.
All right. If you would, I want to go back to one thing. I'm not sure I understood what you were saying.
Okay.
You described young ladies being led around back. If you could explain to the beer board what you were seeing.
I seen a white male on 2 separate occasions leading a group of females from the emission line to the back behind Residence Bank in order to make in order to go down an alleyway that leads to the back entrance of Tin Roof 2. I was, it was dark. I wasn't able to verify if they made entry, but I did see that they did not come out after making entry during the time I was doing observation in that certain area. I also was able to observe females by themselves going back there and back to this alleyway, which did not have an exit, only had one entry and one exit, to my knowledge.
Okay. No further questions from me. Mr. Thompson, if you're ready.
Sure. Hello, Mr. Lampright.
Hello, sir.
There was a sentence in your report I wanted to ask you about where it says Lieutenant Justice advised that the lack of response leads them to believe that this conduct will continue. And he's referring to a letter that City Attorney, her name is Shauna Billingsley, sent to the Tin Roof.
Yes, sir.
Can you just give me any context? So you had a conversation with Justice and he said Tin Roof 2 did not respond, which led him to conclude Tin Roof 2 was disregarding everything.
Well, let me see here. Okay, so our initial meeting was September 2nd with Lieutenant Justice at the Franklin Police Department and to discuss this matter. Now, I do know that Shauna Billingsley did have a conversation with owner Jason Shear on the 31st of August. So I'm not sure if they were aware of the communication following that point, but at the time, the information that was given to me was that there was no response, and that given the high call volume, the types of calls, and the overcrowding, and the non-response to the issues pertaining to the establishment, then it deserved further investigation.
Understood. Okay, so but just to clarify, you're saying that TR, and I call him TR2, Tin Roof 2. You're saying that TR2, Mr. Shear, specifically did speak with Miss Billingsley, and actually for 15 minutes, but you don't consider that a response?
At that time, I didn't know that information. That was brought up. I found that information after the fact, after the report was filed. Okay.
There were some references in your report about underage drinking, but you never observed any underage drinking, correct?
I was unable to substantiate that claim based on, it did appear that there were young women there. I was unable to substantiate that because I was unable to check their IDs, and I was unable to do a minor compliance check.
All right. And you're not aware, maybe there's history with some of these doormen and some of the patrons where perhaps there's familiarity. You don't know the history that some of these people have with these customers that just walked in.
No, sir. This was one night of observation.
Okay. All right. And, it seems like it's a hot topic of conversation is the sex act that happened on premise. This happened on a Sunday, correct?
According to the videos, all I have captions. I was unable to determine what time of day or,
Okay, so you're not sure when it happened. You're not sure if the bar was crowded or not.
Well, in the video did not appear that the bar itself was crowded.
Okay, so it happened on a Sunday. We'll get some testimony as far as when it happened.
Sure.
So the bar sees the act happen in real time. Do you know if they encourage this sort of behavior? Do you have any knowledge of that?
No, sir.
Okay. So they observe this act. What are they supposed to do?
That's in my
opinion.
What
should they do?
Well, I think it'd be appropriate to ask that patron to leave if it was.
Okay.
But
Okay. All right. Well, luckily that's
that's my speculation.
luckily. Okay. Give me a second here, and I'll let you go. I'm just interested. You said this investigation was called for by Chris Koshar. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Contact was made between Lieutenant Justice and my SAC, our Christopher Koshar.
Okay. So the Franklin Police Department, through Lieutenant Justice, contacted the TABC.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we know what prompted Lieutenant Justice to initiate that contact?
I would give in the calls of service, and the other issues that we discussed here already.
Now you mentioned you mentioned a call with City Attorney Shauna Billingsley and
Yes,
what she told Justice. Do you have any information? I think you already answered the question, like whether the mayor of Franklin perhaps called for the screws to get a little tighter on Tin Roof 2?
Whoa.
Wait. If I could stop for just a moment. I think there's some confusion. I want to make sure the beer board understands kind of what's being presented. I don't know that anyone's asserted or suggested that City Attorney Shauna Billingsley spoke to Lieutenant Justice, which is what you just said, Mr. Thompson. And I don't know that anyone's spoken anything about the mayor or any other city officials.
That's why I was asking him. So Mr. Lampright did say that, this is hearsay, but Justice said that Tin Roof 2 did not respond. And Mr. Lampright, he does recall that TR2 did have a conversation with Miss Billingsley. Whether that is enough for there to be an official response, I'll leave it up to the board to decide. But my question was just out of curiosity with where sort of the interest in this matter came from. I'll take the question away. I have no further questions.
May I respond to that?
Go ahead.
It's up to Mr. Squires. Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, in my report that was that I, during the meeting that we had on September 2nd at the PD, I did not know at that time that conversation happened between Jason Shear, the owner of Tin Roof 2, and Shauna Billingsley in relation to the letter that was sent to management in relation to all the issues that we're talking about here today. So I didn't find that information out till at a later date. So to answer your question, I didn't know that information, and I don't know if anybody else did either at that time, since it was only a couple days after. Does that kind of clear it up a little bit? Or?
Sure. Thank you.
Sure. If I could have just one moment. I have no further questions. Mr. Chair, at this point, I would suggest that you turn it over to Mr. Thompson to do essentially kind of the same thing I've just done, which is whatever information he'd like to provide to the board or witnesses be called, and then we'll do the same thing with cross-examination from me if there is any.
Mr. Thompson, would you like to provide any witnesses?
Claude, unmute yourself.
Mr. Thompson, would you like to provide any witnesses for this hearing?
I would. So we'll start. Mr. Squires did a brief opening. I'd like to do the same if I may. We've all heard the term unprecedented times. It's really just crushed a lot of people and a lot of businesses in our community. And unprecedented times call for unprecedented grace and understanding. And I'm in no way, and Tin Roof 2, my client, is in no way, condoning disorderly conduct outside of its establishment. But it's really important to understand that they've been overwhelmed and they need support from the city. They do not want to be adverse to the city. And they've asked repeatedly for help. And we have a plan that they will present to the board, and hopefully the board understands that plan goes a long way in mitigating most of the issues that we're discussing during this hearing. And it's safe to say, in my opinion, that Tin Roof 2 has been a good citizen in the community for 15 years. It's a bar. They're in the business of serving alcohol. And yes, things have occurred, of course, over a 15-year period, but nothing like what we're seeing here today. They pay their taxes. They've employed hundreds of people. And these aren't white-collar jobs. These are blue-collar jobs with people that need to work and they need to earn money. And quite candidly, there's not enough opportunities in the Franklin community for that kind of work. And it's provided a good, stable income for a lot of people. And so that's why the owners are taking this so seriously, that this board, you hold not just the business's life in your hands, but you hold a lot of people that depend on this paycheck. And the posture taken by the city, they're free to do it. I'm not going to express agitation. Lawyers are zealous advocates for their clients, and I understand that. It's a combative business, but I think it's overreach. Right now, they've got padlocks on their doors. And, the council, we could have been sent an email regarding the lawsuit, but instead we were met with a public spectacle on site with media and got sort of blindsided. And I don't think that's a great way to treat a business in the community that's been here for 15 years with the kind of history that Tin Roof has. I said it, and I'm off it. It doesn't take much to reach the conclusion that this is related to the pandemic. They do not do promotions. They are not asking for trouble. Curfew ends in Nashville at 10:30. These people hop in a car, they come south, they're already inebriated. Tin Roof has a brand in Nashville. It has a familiar brand in the Franklin area compared to other places. And again, I'm hopeful that the board takes into consideration the plan that these gentlemen will present to you, that I think will go a very long way to mitigating some of these problems, which really started in May. So please keep that in mind. With that being said, my first witness that I'm going to call is Jason Shear. Jason's co-founder, co-owner of Tin Roof 2. Jason, are you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Jason, I'm going to follow the format that Mr. Squires set and really just give you the microphone.
Okay.
And if I want to interrupt you, I'm going to interrupt you, but for the most part, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to swear him in first.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear
Yes.
or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. We very much appreciate this hearing. Thank you very much, everybody involved. We very much appreciate the Franklin Police because these last few months we have needed your help, and you know that. We are being overwhelmed, overrun. We're not asking for it. We wish that this bad element coming from Nashville would stop. We don't want them. That is why we hold the line. That is why we have hired extra security, and we are so thankful to the Franklin Police Department for setting up in our parking lot and stopping these people who are intoxicated and have drugs on them and guns on them from entering our building. We don't know what we would do without the guys and girls from the Franklin Police Department. So again, I just want to be clear how thankful we are to all of them. I don't want to get too long-winded. I know this is a long hearing, so I don't want to add to that. I have written a statement. I'd like to read that. Again, I'd like to do that just so I don't go down too many different roads. So if I may, again, I have, my name is Jason Shear. I've owned the Tin Roof 2 with my partner, Kyle McPhee, since the day it opened 15 years ago. For all 15 years, we have been focused on creating a fun and safe environment for our customers and our family of employees. And I use the word family because sorry, this is a bit emotional. Sorry. Because we really are a family. We've employed many people for over a decade. Our employees are trained on the safe service of alcohol, and we have never been called before the Franklin Beer Board or the TABC in 15 years. We have never had a hearing. I didn't know where the hearing would even take place. I didn't know where to go when I first heard about this. These are unprecedented circumstances. I think we can all agree on that, that are largely the result of the policies enacted by Metro government because of the coronavirus. We are being overwhelmed in our parking lot after 11 p.m. with a bad element coming from Nashville in Ubers, taxis, people, 6, 8 people at a time. And, you know, we are doing everything we can do inside of our 4 walls. Our insurance does not permit us to police our parking lot. That is against our insurance company's policy. We do not want to send our people out in the parking lot in harm's way. God forbid there was an incident and someone got hurt. We have no other choice. So we have hired extra security to keep the line on our sidewalk. And again, that's why we are so thankful to the Franklin Police Department for their patrols in and around our parking lot. We want to do everything we can do to prevent this shutdown from continuing. We continued to pay our employees during the first shutdown a few months ago, and are so thankful that we are finally getting back on our feet. We presently employ over 40 servers, bartenders, kitchen, and security staff. As you know, our employees, along with many other hardworking people in the hospitality industry, have been devastated by the COVID restrictions. Again, I just want to reiterate that 40 plus people rely on this place for their families, for their mortgages, for their car payments, for food. You may be asking why we didn't put any solutions in place prior to today. Why did it take this hearing to get us to react? That is just simply not what has happened here. We are a little bit confused because we felt like we always had a very good relationship with the Franklin Police Department, and we have always been in communication with them. And they have always told us that we're doing a good job and that they are responsible for the parking lot, and they will continue to police the parking lot. And of course, we were, like I said, so thankful for that. So when this all happened so suddenly, we were extremely confused because we have the Franklin police people telling us, keep doing what you're doing. You guys are doing a great job. And our security guys will speak to that. They've been told that night in and night out. And they have also said to us, we understand that this is coming from Nashville and your parking lot is getting overwhelmed. So when the Franklin Police Department, the greatest security company on planet Earth, tells us you're doing a great job, we don't think we should call it an outside security company because we have the best already. And so that is why we will get to our plan and what we plan to do. But I just want to also say that when I spoke with Shauna Billingsley on August 31st for 15 minutes, we had a very nice conversation after I received her letter. And I thought, rather than respond with a letter in 2020, obviously, you know, I want to respond to her immediately. I would have preferred a face-to-face meeting, but during these times, I figured it would be more appropriate to call. I did. We had a very nice conversation for about 15 minutes, explained that this is coming from Nashville and that we would be willing to do literally anything to stop this from happening in our parking lot. We talked about potential roadblocks coming off the highway, talked about meeting with the head of the Franklin Police Department. I requested that and said that my partner and myself, Kyle and myself, would be more than happy to pay for and hire off-duty uniformed Franklin police. We already pay taxes, but we are willing to pay anything just to stop this influx of a bad element coming from Nashville. We've been in business for 15 years, and we have been bombarded since May with Mayor Cooper's curfews. All of these issues are happening after that curfew starts in Nashville. So the people are literally being sent to us by police officers in Nashville who are only trying to show tourists a good time and say they're saying to people on Lower Broadway, I'm sorry, there's a curfew, you know, but you can get an Uber and go 15 minutes up the road. There's this great place, Tin Roof 2. You guys would love it. And although in normal times we would appreciate that, it's the last thing we want. We do not want more business. We want peace. And this shutdown, again, during the Corona shutdowns in the beginning of March, we continued to pay our people. Our bank account was drained to less than nothing, but we continued to pay our people. We continued to do some to-go foods. Our customers are phenomenal. They picked it up in their cars. They were so generous. To our staff. And another shutdown would crush our 40 employees. I don't think the word devastating is dramatic enough. I am begging you, given our long history of being a good corporate citizen and a business that over 15 years ago took a chance and opened in Franklin when most people told us we were crazy, that we would go out of business if we opened up the highway outside of Nashville. We took a chance on Franklin, and we're asking you for your support to help us when we need it most. There are a lot of allegations being made. I understand that they sound pretty bad. I am hearing so many of these for the first time. I am a father of 3. I've been married for 21 years. And when I walked through my door last night, after my business was padlocked, my 15-year-old daughter said people are texting me on my phone that people are getting raped at your restaurant. My daughter was born when we opened. She is 15. That is not unlike many stories that people will tell you about Tin Roof, the real Tin Roof 2. Families come in there, kids, people meet there, they're married, they now have kids. Our staff has met each other as strangers. They are now the best of friends, roommates, married, they now have children. How can a problem place, a nuisance, a danger to the community, possibly be open for 15 years without a single violation with the ABC board or the TABC? The beer board or the TABC. It just does not add up.
Jason, if I may.
I'm sorry, I'm getting long-winded. Like I said, I wouldn't, but this is obviously very emotional.
It's worth noting you prepared your statement without my help or any attorney's help. That was from the heart.
Yeah.
What remediation plan do you specifically have that you can present to the board that will sanitize the this unusual problem that you all are facing?
Yes. So when I spoke with Shauna Billingsley on August 31st for 15 minutes, I made some of these suggestions, and she told me that she liked these suggestions. Again, I thought we had a great conversation, and she said she was going to talk to the Franklin chief of police and that she would get back to me to let me know the chief of police thoughts and her thoughts and so on. I, to this day, have never heard back from her. Obviously, I know now that it's because,
Don't speculate.
Okay. Well, I never heard back from her. Let's just say that. But moving forward, now that we have been told that we are a nuisance, we want to fix that desperately. We want to fix it now. We want to fix it yesterday. So what we are proposing is that we will close when Nashville closes. It makes perfect sense. And we would have done this months ago, given the opportunity to speak with some people about this. But it is obvious the influx of people are coming when Nashville curfew ends. So let us match that curfew. If it's 11 p.m. right now, which it is, we will close our doors. Everyone will be out, and we will be done with business. No more patrons at 11 p.m. We will go to the news with this. We will go on social media. We will take out full page ads. We will do everything we can do to get the word out that there's no reason to come to Tin Roof 2 in Franklin because we are closed. We also already have a contract in place because, again, we knew the Franklin Police Department was there and doing a phenomenal job. We did not know that they did not want to be there. That is news to us, that we were a nuisance and a problem. Now that we have been made aware of that, we want to fix that. Again, if we can pay the Franklin Police Department, that would be our first choice. I never got a response on that, so I don't know if we can do that legally. But if we can't do that, we already have a contract in place with Rock Solid Security to have extra security guards that are insured, that will indemnify us, indemnify the Franklin Police, indemnify the landlord, the owner of the parking lot that we don't have the right to police on our own. They are already hired, waiting to work hard in our parking lot to stop any incidents from happening. And we will stop at nothing in order to get our business back open and our people back to work and earning a living. And I told Shauna Billingsley this, I made some suggestions and recommendations and I had my thoughts, but I told her, I said, please let us know anything we can do, we will do. You tell us, we will do it. Whatever it costs, whatever people power, you tell us what we need to throw at this thing and we'll do it. And so that's our plan, to close when Nashville closes. So there's no reason for anybody to get in an Uber. We will have extra security. We already have that contract in place. And we believe that fixes it. We again, we're open to all suggestions beyond that.
Jason, I've got a couple of really quick questions, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Squires. You and Kyle have owned this from the start, correct?
Yes, sir.
In any prior years, have you seen an influx of problems like this?
To my knowledge, never. I mean, not even close.
Why do you think people in Nashville, when the curfew hits, why are they choosing your bar over some of the other Franklin bars? Specifically, are you advertising for them?
No. As a matter of fact, we have stopped all promotions. We don't want more. We want less. Our regular customers want less. So the reason why so many people are gravitating toward us is because I touched on it before. We were the first to come to Franklin 15 years ago. Carruthers Parkway was very sleepy. So the fact that we've been there so long, number one, and then number two, of course, there are brother sister locations that I started and sold. I do not have majority ownership of those locations anymore, Demonbreun Street and Lower Broadway. So it is a name that people know in Nashville. So obviously when they can't go to a Tin Roof in Nashville, and so many of them have never been to Tin Roof 2 in Franklin, why would they take a $40 or $50 Uber ride to come to Tin Roof 2 in Franklin if they can just go to a Tin Roof in town? But because they know the name, they're coming out our way. So we know that for a fact that other Franklin bar owners are having issues, but the majority of the people are landing in our parking lot because of the name recognition.
Okay. I'm good for now. I might ask you questions after Mr. Squires goes, but Bill, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Jason. My name is Bill Squires. I'm the Assistant City Attorney for the city. I wanted to say thank you for sharing what you just did. I don't want to minimize or ignore that it was very emotional for you. I appreciate you allowing yourself to share that with us today. That can't be an easy thing, and I don't want to pretend it was. I have just some factual questions from some things you said, really just to kind of fill it out for the beer board.
Yes.
I know that there was some discussion of you all maybe talking to or trying to work with the TABC. Have you all met with them yet or talked to them yet?
No, sir. This all came, it just fell in our laps. Literally, I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate, but I believe 18 police officers showed up.
You answered the question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The answer is no.
No. Sorry, thank you.
No, I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure I understood the facts. So your liquor license is still suspended, is that right?
Until a hearing.
Okay. And then I just want to make sure I understand this too, because I'm not there. I'm not boots on the ground, and there's a lot of talk about folks coming from Nashville. When you're there, do you go out and talk to the people that are waiting in line, or what's your interaction with the folks who are waiting in line like?
We cannot, according to our insurance, police the parking lot. That's just the best way that I can answer that. I mean, we are responsible for our four walls. We're already putting our people in harm's way. The fact that they're outside on that sidewalk trying to keep order, we're doing the best we can. And again, that is why if we just close at 11 p.m., the issue goes away. The people will not be there. They will not be in line. But, and again, we would have done that months ago. But when the Franklin police are saying to us, keep doing what you're doing, we've got the outside, you guys are doing a great job, we say, okay, thank you. But again, obviously now we are very aware that there's a problem, because here we are today. We have a TABC hearing coming up and our doors are padlocked and all of our employees are jobless as we speak. So now that, we have an opportunity to have this discussion, and we thank you all very much for this open discussion. Give us an opportunity to fix this, work with us rather than against us. We most certainly are willing and open, again, like I said, to anything you recommend. But to take our license and not allow our people to go to work is a death sentence. And especially when we already were closed for so long, like so many people around the world were due to Corona. Our people are finally, getting back on their feet and paying off.
Jason,
sorry.
Give Mr. Squires a chance to ask his questions.
All right.
Sure, and I appreciate that. And I kind of want to go back a little bit. I appreciate everything you're sharing. I don't mean to harp on anything, but I do want to understand a little bit. When the folks are in line, are you guys out there talking with them? And I'll get to the real point of my question. There's a lot of talk about folks coming from Nashville. I'm curious how you know that, because there's talk about how we can't police the parking lot, and I'm not hearing a lot of, well, we're talking to people in the line, they're saying they're from Nashville. Or how is it that you all know those things, the things you just described?
Sure. Well, when, a lot of our security guys have been there for a long time. And when you've been there for 15 years, we don't call our customers like most businesses do. We call them regulars. So we know, our regular crowd. That's not to say that some people are going to come in from time to time, who we don't know. And inevitably they become regulars as well, because it's a great place with great employees. But my point is that we know our regular crowd. We can see, and our ID checkers and our staff can tell, hey, this is not our normal Tin Roof 2 crowd. As a matter of fact, there was one incident. Don't quote me here. I'm not sure the time frame, but about 4 to 6 weeks ago, when it was a Saturday day or a Sunday day, where our staff was in there. We were not very busy, and 4 party buses from Nashville pulled up in our parking lot, unloaded, 100 people into our establishment. My phone rang immediately from the staff, and they said, "Hey, party buses just showed up. Like we're getting overwhelmed." And again, that was inside our building, right? So it took me about 15 minutes. I tracked down the owner of the party buses, got him on the phone. He was very nice about it. He apologized, and I said, "Look, we do not want you. You cannot bring party buses here." This was obviously, at the sort of the height of Corona and social distancing and mask wearing. And he apologized. He loaded everyone back up on those party buses, and they headed back down the highway. I told him, "I forbid you to ever come here again. Do not bring your party buses." But again, we can only do so much. This sex act that we're talking about on that Sunday night, that is appalling. That is the last thing that we want to happen. How could we be in business for 15 years and sell nearly $1 million worth of food if we're condoning that, allowing that, encouraging that? We were disgusted by that. That video was 6 seconds long, and immediately we kicked those people out, banned them for life. Those were the same people that Nashville had trouble with that big party with 1,000 people at the Fashion House. Of course, we didn't know that. We didn't know what they looked like. We do now. So again, these things happen. Party buses roll up. These, total degenerates have this sex act at the bar on a Sunday night when there's about 20 people in the entire place. And we immediately take care of it. But, when a fire starts inside our 4 walls, we put it out as quickly as we can. But we cannot, our 40 guys and girls cannot deal with what the Franklin Police is dealing with outside of our 4 walls. We are not trained to do that. We would get hurt. So you're asking me, do I go up and down the line? I'm not trained in that capacity. I'm trained on the restaurant business. I've been in it for over 25 years. And again, this is the first time I'm faced with a hearing.
Sure, and thank you. I appreciate that answer. I think, and this is my concern, and you may or may not be able to address it. I don't know.
Sure.
What I'm hearing you say is that you all don't go up and down the line, as you just mentioned. So the notion that these folks are coming from Nashville, and I assume you're not suggesting that every time there's a line, it's because a party bus has come. I'm not hearing you say.
No, that was one incident.
It was one incident.
Yeah.
So my question really is more aimed at, how do you know that these folks are coming from Nashville, or is it an assumption made based on what Nashville is doing with its curfews?
Well,
it's one thing to say, and I'll say it this way, maybe this will help explain the question. It's one thing to say these are not our regular folks. It's another thing to say they're all coming from Nashville. I'm wondering how you're making that distinction.
Yeah. Well, and maybe I shouldn't say the word all. I'm sure there are some Franklin people in that line, but our guys know the difference between a Franklin ID and a Nashville ID. So they're seeing an influx of hundreds and hundreds more Nashville IDs, which is not our regular customer, because frankly, there's a lot of places in Nashville. So Franklin people tend to stay in Franklin. It's an expensive Uber ride. But when we see 6 people getting out of Ubers and 4 people getting out of Ubers, they're probably not coming from Franklin. And then again, when our guys check the IDs, they say Nashville. So that's how we really know that. But prior to that, we do know a lot of what our customers look like. And that's why when the officer said, those girls just walked in without getting their ID checked. Well, if we've known them for 10 years, at this point, we're not checking their ID.
Okay. I just wanted to ask one other question. I know there's been some talk, and I think you mentioned it, some question about legal responsibility for the parking lot. And I don't want to ask you a legal question. That's sure. Before Mr. Thompson shoots me down, I'm not asking you anything as a lawyer.
Yes.
I want to ask you, because you heard the folks earlier say people are overserved and walking out of your establishment. So I want to ask you, who do you think should be responsible for the parking lot or that area around it, or where the line is, what the folks outside are doing?
Well, again, that's why I offered to pay for uniformed Franklin police, because we think they would do the best job, just like they're doing now, to deal with that. If we cannot hire them, we have a security company already in place. We have a contract, so they would do it. That would be obviously second best compared to Franklin Police. But I don't want to put our people, someone who's got a full-time job and then they're doing our security job to earn a little extra income. I don't want to put them outside in harm's way. And that's why if we close at 11, there won't be people to deal with. It's a very simple, but a very good solution in our opinion.
I understand. And so I'll pose the question this way based on what you just said. By the notion that you're saying we'll pay, we'll hire, we'll do these things, should the board understand that to mean that you believe you're responsible ultimately for the parking lot and area around your building?
No, it's just the opposite. We are not. However, because these are circumstances that are again, this is 15 years in business, and this is a short period of time that this has happened. So we're willing to do that. We just want to do what we can to get our people back to work. So we think that that's a solution. But no, we don't think we're responsible for the parking lot because it's just public property. It's Starbucks parking lot, it's Renaissance Bank parking lot, and those businesses are closed after 11 p.m. But nonetheless, these people are still coming. So if we're not open, if nothing in the complex is open after 11 p.m., I think we'd all agree that no people would be in the complex.
Thank you, Mr. Shearer. I have no further questions. Mr. Thompson, if you have anything to follow up on.
Rapid fire question, Jason. Assuming you adjust the hours to match the Davidson County curfew, is the crowd issue, does that become a moot point? Yes or no?
Yes. And
even with that in mind, are you still willing to increase your security outside?
Yes.
Okay, we're good. I'm assuming, Mr. Squires, you're done. My next witness, I'm going to have Mr. Stacy O'Neill come online. Kyle, you're going to go last, just giving you a heads up. And Stacy, test out your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you great. Just so everyone on this Zoom knows, I've actually never spoken with Stacy, so I'm learning in real time. Stacy, good to meet you. I've heard great things about you.
Thank you.
Why don't you explain your responsibilities at Tin Roof, and then once you're done there, I'll kind of lead you along with questions, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Does she want to swear me in, or you want me to?
Oh, good call.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. So my name is Stacy O'Neill. My capacity, I serve as I'm over the door guys for the Tin Roof 2, and I'm also one of the weekend managers, closing managers for the location also.
You heard Mr. Squires ask about how you all know if this increase in traffic is coming from Nashville. You're there at the door. Would you be in a position to know that information?
Yes. I'm actually familiar with the crowd. I actually work in Nashville up until Davidson County shut down, obviously. Jason asked me to come out and help. And I knew right away with the all familiar faces that I've seen since Davidson County's closed. That definitely is the Nashville crowd.
When did you start with TR2?
Oh my goodness. When it first opened, I actually, believe it or not, I actually started when it first opened. I was helping when I could out there on the weekends or whenever they needed me.
Okay.
So between that time frame, I guess, in the last 8-9 years, I've been more with the other tin roofs up until this point.
Based on your familiarity with the business, when did the problems really start to escalate around Tin Roof 2?
When they shut Nashville down.
When was that specifically? Do you know? Was it May?
May. Yeah.
Do you? You're posted at the door. Are you aware of what's happening in the bar?
I am actually floating around, so I'm moving around a lot. But yes, I am aware.
You've been on this entire time, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. You've heard some allegations about things happening, things like outside the bar. Are you seeing anything particularly disturbing inside the bar?
No. We're going to have, again, with the influx of obviously people coming to Williamson County, I can tell you that we have diffused more things than actual fights. We're going to have occasional fights, but we've diffused way more and gotten people out more than the actual fights have happened. But as far as anything really detrimental happening on the inside, no.
Do you sometimes call law enforcement to help when things get out of hand?
That is our last resort. And when it gets to that point, or if it's a dicey situation that we don't want to take a chance, whether it be involving a female that we need to get out, or just somebody who is just, hey, I think, we're probably going to need their help just out of necessity for whatever reason, that'd be the only time, yeah.
I'm looking at your size. I can't imagine you needing a whole lot of help. Customers.
I'm a negotiator. I'm a talker.
Okay. Well, last question. Okay. You've observed some of these activities happening outside of the bar. I believe Mr. Squires is trying to figure out where Tin Roof's responsibility ends and where the city begins. Where's that line for you? When do you get involved when things happen outside?
So I'm as I'm walking around, I can gauge, hey, we're starting to get empty. I will allow some more people in. Now, when I walk outside and people are asking, I'll go ahead and address the line. Hey, guys, obviously we are experiencing, we're hitting capacity. I can't give you a time frame on when we can let you in. But as far as me, like that's as far as I go. I'll give an update when I'm able to. Outside of that, I'm on the inside, making sure that everybody's good on the inside, staff and patrons.
Okay. I'm gonna let Mr. Squires go. Thank you for being here. And I might ask a couple questions later.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. O'Neill. My name is Bill Squires. I'm with the city of Franklin. I just had a couple of quick questions, and thank you for being here and sharing this information. You work with Tin Roof 2 now, is that correct?
Mhm.
Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay, and did I understand you correctly that you previously worked at the Tin Roof in Nashville, or did I hear
Yes,
that wrong?
that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, and when did you switch from the one up there to the one down here?
When they shut down.
So this year, I mean, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so around May or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, initially when they first opened, I helped out when they needed because they first opened. So they just, whenever they needed help, and that was like the day the doors open, like big events or something like that.
So many years ago, you mean?
Absolutely.
When they first opened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you've been at the Tin Roof in Nashville, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you made a statement. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You said that it's a familiar crowd and that you know them, faces, that sort of thing. Is your statement that you know them from the Tin Roof in Nashville?
I know that I'm a native of Nashville. So even sometimes when I go out in Nashville, I recognize faces. I'm pretty good with faces. The majority of that crowd that I'm seeing right now either lives in Nashville or comes out in Nashville.
Okay, and I'm not trying to be difficult at all. I'm just trying to figure out how you're making that connection, how the faces are familiar. If you're saying they're familiar, where are they familiar from?
Mr. Squires, I believe he just told you.
Well, I don't.
Okay.
I don't mean to be
No,
difficult.
it's fine.
You kind of said all of Nashville, and I'm trying to figure out where.
So just from going out maybe downtown on Broadway, but my main bar was Demonbreun, and that area was pretty popular. So I'd see the majority of those faces all the time, almost every weekend.
Okay, so these are folks you were seeing at the Tin Roof in Nashville, is that what?
Yeah, I don't know them personally, but faces I remember, yes.
Okay, and you've been there the whole time, and I should have asked Mr. Shear this question. I know there was some connection between the Tin Roof up there and the Tin Roof down here. When you're working up there, I don't know, was Mr. Shear working with you up there? Are these the same folks? I don't know.
When I first got hired, he was the one that hired me in Nashville.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to call Kelsey Kirkland, and just for the benefit of the board, I know it's been a couple of hours. I don't anticipate this taking much longer. Kelsey, go ahead and be sworn in, if you will.
Hello. Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Kelsey, how long have you been working at Tin Roof 2?
I have been there 8 years.
And you've been, I'm going to do something unusual here. You've been here the whole time during the hearing. Is there anything in particular that you can add that you think would be helpful for the board to learn?
Yes, I do. As soon as that video was out, they were kicked out. He's banned for life. He's not allowed back there.
Which video?
The ass video, excuse me.
Okay.
And we know they're from downtown Nashville. They have out-of-state IDs. I mean, those are tourists coming to Nashville. They hear about us and they come out here and people just want to party. It's crazy.
Kelsey, have you seen an increase in, I guess, incidents, what we're calling it here, police incidents, starting from a particular date or time frame?
I would say there's only trouble after 11 o'clock. There's no trouble before.
Since when?
I would say July at the latest. I don't feel like we had a very big problem when we were just doing to-go service, but since we have opened back up, I believe there has been a problem.
And you've heard of some of these incidents referenced by the police officers and different people. Do you observe these things happening on premise?
No, they are not on premise.
With the exception of the sex act that we've talked about.
Correct.
Have you observed drug sales on premise?
No, I have not.
Okay. Aggravate. Okay. That's all I've got for you, Kelsey.
Okay.
And I have no questions for you. Thank you, Ms. Kirkland.
No problem.
Thank you. Kyle, turn your camera on, please. And everyone, this is Kyle McPhee. He's co-owner of Tin Roof 2. Kyle, go ahead and be sworn in.
Do you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Kyle, first, before I ask you questions, do you want the floor to say anything?
Yeah, if I could, yes, I'll be, I know we have been here quite some time, but yeah, if I could say a couple of things, would that be okay?
Yes, sure.
First, let me just start off and say thank you guys all for being here and hearing from us. I can't put into words when the last 24 hours, the last, I guess, since Friday, of when we learned of everything. I know, I recognize, obviously, Sergeant Gomez. I know the officers by name from being customers that have come in to the Tin Roof for the last 15 years. It has been, we have worked with them. We have worked hand in hand with them over the last 15 years. I don't think any place could be open if we didn't. So I want to thank what the police department does for Franklin, for Tin Roof 2, and everyone else for keeping everyone safe. I do have a little prepared statement, if I could. How have we made Williamson County better? What have we done right? I think it's a lot. The Tin Roof 2 running crew, which had gone for 8 years, we met every Monday night, and we were continually the largest fundraiser for the Mercy Community Healthcare for the Franklin Classic. Thankful Thursdays. Every Thursday, at least once a month, we donate to a small business in town. One of our largest one was to donate over 200 meals to the Williamson Medical Center. Every Christmas, we do a food drive for the homeless for Second Harvest Food Bank. Over the last 5 years, we have done a blanket and dog drive for the Williamson County Shelter. We also do a jacket drive for the homeless in the Nashville area. We have done toy drives, and every Christmas we do an angel tree. When our employee or family members lost their apartment in the tornado, we did a fundraiser raising over $3,500 for him and his fiance. Another one of our regulars found out that when they were having lunch, they found out that their daughter had MS. And so at that point, really instantly, we decided that we were going to do a fundraiser for her daughter in honor of her daughter. And that has raised more. It's second, I guess, in the state, raising second most in the state for MS. The Tin Roof 2 has done a golf tournament the last 4 years, and we have raised over $300,000. So we've done countless sponsorship for elementary schools, junior highs, fundraisers for sports teams, drama teams, and bands. Last year we did a songwriter night for the Ravenwood Band because they didn't have enough money for instruments. So because of that, they were able to have instruments. and our family, our staff. We have changed so many of their lives for the better. I don't want to go into some details, but they were in some bad situations, and we have willfully employed them where they have been able to buy their first car, their first apartment, their first home. They've met their significant other. I met my wife at Tin Roof too, and we have 3 children. To be called a public nuisance is the farthest from the truth. We don't do these things because we're told to. We do these things because it's in the fabric of kind of who we are. I'm one of the most positive, as is Jason, people. And we want to work together with you guys. We are ready. It's never been a closed door policy, ever. So I just want to say, please give us the opportunity to work with you guys. We obviously want to be a safe place, just as you guys want us to be a safe place. I could go on and on. I know Jason hit on a lot of things too. I'm not making excuses. We go to accountability. We would love to work with you guys if you allow that. Please do not take this away from our staff, our family, and let us work together. That's it. Thank you.
Kyle, thank you for that. What happens if you're not allowed to serve, in this case, beer?
Essentially, we're closed, right? Essentially, our employees who are just coming back from the shutdown, without warning, are do not have a job. I take it very, very, very personally that they not only have chosen to work for us, but that have chosen Tin Roof too. And it's very hard to find somebody, employees, if you guys are familiar with the restaurant business, there's a big, big turnaround. The people that you've talked to, Stacy, I've known that guy. I can tell you 100 stories about him. They chose us, we chose them. I choose it's very important for us to take care of each other, I guess, right? It's not just a place, and if you guys came inside, you would see that there's just something different. You can't put your finger on it, but I think, Sergeant Gomez could attest. He's been in there.
Sorry to cut you off. During your 15-year history, have you maintained a good relationship with law enforcement?
100%, yes.
We're dealing with incidents that largely, it seems like, started from May. Kelsey testified July. Was this spontaneous combustion, or did you guys do any sort of marketing or advertising to get the traffic?
No, there's no marketing. We've been there for 15 years and had a consistent, regular base.
Do you feel like the proposal submitted by your partner, Jason, would mitigate most of these issues?
Yes, I do.
Can you just clearly restate what those 2 items are?
Yeah, so following Nashville, when they shut down, we would shut down. So at 11, and then having extra security in the parking lot would definitely help.
How many people show up for your Monday runs?
In the heyday, we had about 150 people show up on a great night. So I know.
Who was the fastest person to ever show up on one of those runs?
Probably say your wife.
You got it. Just saying. Had to get that out there.
Yeah.
And regarding last question, is this sort of, let's call it debauchery? Is it good for your business?
No.
Forget the fact that we're here now, which is obviously not good for business, but just in general, is all this ruckus good for business? What do you guys want as business owners?
No, we want to be here for the next 15 years in Franklin. So we, again, have worked with the police.
When people are overserved, do they tip well?
No, they do not.
Unless you have anything further to add, I'm done with questions.
Okay. Thanks.
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. McPhee.
Thank you.
I have no further witnesses to call. Mr. Squires, I'm going to lean on you to tell me what needs to happen next procedurally, whether we close or we sum it up.
Yeah, for the benefit of the Beer Board, I think we've been at this for a hot minute, as they say. I think it might be good for us to recap a little bit if the witnesses are done. And of course, everyone who's still present, the Beer Board may themselves have questions for you. I just want to make sure you all know that. So I'm going to go ahead and do what you might think of as a closing, Mr. Thompson, and kind of wrap up my side and let you do the same. I want to go back, ladies and gentlemen of the Beer Board, kind of to where we started. You all have heard a lot of information, but again, the question that's really in front of you is whether this particular permittee has allowed their business to become a public nuisance, a nuisance to law enforcement agencies, whether they've created a nuisance themselves, or materially contributed to creating or maintaining a public nuisance. You heard a lot of testimony today from the police department about the number of calls they're getting. You heard a lot of testimony today about how many incident reports have been taken, how many arrests have been taken, how many DUIs, how many simple assaults, how many sexual assaults. You've heard about sex acts being committed inside the establishment. You heard testimony from the TABC about things that they saw inside the establishment. You heard about things taking place in the parking lot. You heard about things taking place in the line while people wait. And I want to go back to something that Ms. Kirkland said actually just a moment ago, because it ties into, in my estimation, and I think for the board's consideration, materially contributing to creating a public nuisance. Ms. Kirkland said, you know, she was talking about tourists, and she said, they hear about us and want to come down and party. And I want that to sink in for a minute. What she said was, they hear about us, that's pre-existing. They're hearing about us before they get to being in Nashville, being a tourist, being from wherever they're from, and they want to come down and party. So
that was not her testimony.
I wrote it down. It was something to that effect. I want to be clear, though, that what that means, though, is that folks are hearing this is the place to go.
Sir, if I may.
No, Jason, you may not. He's wrapping up.
Okay, sorry.
Certainly if I'm misquoting Miss Kirkland, I don't mean to at all.
Jason? Oh, sorry.
I don't mean to at all. She said something along those effects. What I'm getting at is this: folks outside of this area know to come here to party. That's kind of that's a problem. That's materially contributing to problems. You know, they contribute to this when they allow this kind of thing. You heard Special Agent Ross Lampright say, you know, the management style is kind of the issue. You know, that there are other things that could be done. What you've heard from some of the Tin Roof folks themselves is, you know, that they can't deal with it, that they're unable to deal with it, that it's too much for them. I would suggest to the Bureau Board, it doesn't matter where they're coming from. It doesn't matter if they're from Nashville, from Spring Hill, from Columbia, I don't know that those things matter. At the end of the day, what you all are hearing is that folks are coming there and problems are happening. And I think that's what you need to consider. And I have to be clear about something else too. You know, there's some talk about Ms. Billingsley's letter, and obviously it's not before you. But you know, that letter kind of laid out, you know, it talked about, it named nuisances and said, you know, if you're not able to do something about this, we may have to take other action. And certainly Mr. Scheer did call and speak with her. I want to make sure you all know that. But having said that, you know, we're only hearing about a plan, a concrete plan today. They've known that letter was at the end of August. They spoke, I thought, August 31st, thereabout. You know, and the police department continued, you know, getting calls, reports, more and more going on into September. And I want to leave one thought with you, and I don't mean it to be ugly, but I mean it to be clear. Certainly nobody at the city of Franklin, and certainly nobody on this beer board, wants to harm anybody who is an employee of Tin Roof 2. That is certainly not why we would do anything like this, why we put this in front of you. I appreciate the heartfelt stories that we've just heard from folks. I appreciate the notion of family, but I'm going to say this in a rather direct way. You know, there was some question about how many folks show up for your Monday runs. You also heard testimony, however, from police who say there have been X number, 23 or so DUIs this year. I think it bears some thought. How many folks can get hurt from a DUI? How many folks can get hurt from multiple DUIs? How many folks can get hurt from that list of crimes that Sergeant Morgan went through? The city's position is that you all obviously should deliberate and talk about what you've heard, but we are asking that the beer permit be revoked. Thank you. And I'll pass it to Mr. Thompson. After that, Mr. Chair, if you want to pick it up from there.
Thank you, Mr. Squires. Tin Roof 2 is facing an unprecedented assault, and it is worth understanding the fact that they've been here for 15 years. That's long enough to be considered a local. They're part of this community. They are not the degenerates that the city is making them out to be. It is absolutely relevant where the influx is coming from. It is not a large leap to conclude that all of this started with the Davidson County shutdown. We do not have to spend a whole lot of time thinking about that. There is a direct causal connection, and we've put up testimony specifically on that issue. I think most credibly coming from Stacey O'Neill, who works both in Davidson County and in Williamson County, and he very clearly said this happened with the shutdown. Now, we're not here to opine whether that was a wise decision or not. It happened. And these guys did not, unlike what Mr. Squires is alleging here, they did not materially contribute. They did not run an advertisement. They did not say, we want your business. Nashville is bad, we're good. People, Mr. Squires referenced Kelsey Kirkland's testimony. She did not say that people were aware of Tin Roof 2 being open when they got to Nashville. They were being sent there by police officers, by bouncers, and of course, texting each other and whatnot. So we're asking for a little bit of grace. We certainly understand the severity of these incidents that have happened. It's important to know that these did happen off premise. The police officers were not able to testify about what they saw inside the bar. I think that's important. That being said, these owners are willing to pay to help, which I believe is a moot point. It becomes a moot point, and I really want this board to to think about this and just use your common sense. It's a moot point when the bar closes at 11. This stops, and Tin Roof 2 goes back to being the old Tin Roof 2, which is just one of a few bars in Franklin. And then you're going to have the problem of the traffic going somewhere else, and that'll be that bar's problem. But I believe those two measures, number one, they will create financial harm for the company. They're willing to endure it. Anything but the death sentence. And we're asking that unprecedented times that we're in, that this board show some grace and give this company that people rely on and depend on an opportunity. And yes, there was dialogue between the founder of Tin Roof 2 and Shauna Billingsley. And those discussions, according to the founders, were relatively positive. Well, it turns out a case was being built starting in, based on my notes, September 2nd. So maybe this could have been avoided. Me and Mr. Squires can argue on that. But going forward, we ask that this board take into consideration, this is the first time this bar has been in front of you. It's an important business in the community. The hospitality industry has been devastated. And I would prefer that there be a lesser penalty imposed that goes along with their hour adjustments, reducing their operating hours. And in my view, these issues stop immediately when Davidson County opens up and they can handle the traffic. You gotta want to party pretty bad if you're in Davidson County and you're willing to make the Uber ride down south. And so we're not dealing with a highly responsible crowd. That stops the moment the curfew is self-imposed by Tin Roof 2. And so I respectfully end my close, and we hope you guys think hard on these issues, and thank you for your time.
I want to thank everyone for the participation and for being here. And also, I want to ask each of the members of the Beer Board, Alderman Martin and Alderman Bransford, if you have any questions of any of the city witnesses or any of the applicant witnesses, speak up, we'll recognize you, and we'll spend whatever time we need to take to answer your questions also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Alderman Bransford, and to probably the owners, Mr. Shears and Mr. McPhee, are there cameras on your building, or are there cameras that serve the parking lot of this establishment?
We do not have cameras.
Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about going forward. You had mentioned having security. So is camera versus security, is those our options, or both, or one is better than the other?
I'm sorry, I may have confused you. When I say security, I mean a human being, a person, okay, not security cameras.
Yeah. And in the parking lot are public spaces, this which our police department patrol and monitor and manage, okay? But the behavior inside for the owners, when a negative behavior occurs inside owners, are you notified immediately? Does Mr. O'Neill call you, or are you just like 2 or 3 days later, or are you in the building as well? When do you know that there was a fight, or there was a sexual grabbing or some kind of ill behavior inside the building, not the parking lot?
Yes, ma'am.
When do you know that?
Well, typically, we know things immediately. Kyle and myself, our phones are never off. In this business, you don't get the luxury of shutting your phone off. So our phones are never off. I have conversations with Stacy O'Neill and some of the other staff in the wee hours of the morning, and obviously they have been happening more frequently in these last few months. My phone didn't ring for years, literally,
And
because
that's what
we
I'm
didn't.
gonna say. You know, we value our small business here in Franklin. We value our service worker. They're the backbone of our community. If
Yes,
you've
ma'am.
been great for 14 years, guys, then all of a sudden you're gonna let this happen. So I have a concern about that. And thank you for recognizing our fine police department here in Franklin, how they
Yes,
have
ma'am.
been partners for you and how you have been able to call them. And I think I heard Stacey O'Neill said that he would call them as the last alternative. So it sounded like you were not calling them very often, Mr. O'Neill. It was just like maybe once in a while. Were you calling them on these?
When it was necessary.
Okay.
When it was necessary.
Mr. Chairman, let me know if I need to shut up and go let somebody else speak and we do our deliberation because I'm sort of going into my comments. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You know, the bell has already been wrong with the behaviors inside and outside. We're going to focus more so on the inside behavior because that's what you all can control or should control. And I hear your plea, and I'm really concerned about being overwhelmed. Yes, you're going to close, but we want a good overwhelm. We want a Titan football game. We want the pilgrimage to line up outside of your business and have an overwhelming need for people to come in there and have a good experience. So let's not look at being overwhelmed as a negative. It's negative if you come in intoxicated or you bring in certain behaviors occur because of that overwhelming. Because we want our business to come back and be profitable. The 30-day letter notice, well, 30 days ago. So materially contributing or maintaining a public nuisance. So maybe you didn't materially advertise, but once there was information that this was happening and things were happening, Bill, do I need to be directing this to somebody specifically? I think I'm talking to the owners because that's who has the permit. Did you not see that somehow maintaining was still going on? This public nuisance was still going on within these 30 days after having a conversation? Clear that up for me. I'm not sure.
Yes,
30 days,
yes, ma'am.
And then you continue, and then where we are today.
Yes, ma'am.
That there was a continuation or a maintenance, a maintaining of a public nuisance?
Yes, ma'am. So when I got that letter, I immediately called Shauna Billingsley. I believe I got called back about 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later. We had a 15-minute long conversation about different things that we as business owners wanted to do and ideas we had. And it was a very nice back and forth conversation. She mentioned some of the things in these reports that we heard today. We talked about those things. Again, I made recommendations. She told me that she was going to talk to the chief of police, Franklin Police Department. And I asked, please, I don't want to say beg, that might be a little strong, but I said, please, that would be just phenomenal if we could talk to the head of the Franklin Police Department. And she said, I'll be in touch with her and I will get back in touch with you. And I have not heard from her to this day.
So you didn't think that was serious enough for you to say, hey, let me stop for a minute. I'm just out here. Hey, let me close down for a night. Let me regroup here. Let me get my staff together. Let me, without waiting for a police chief to call you, let me see what's going on and how we can best handle this. That is something I think could have been maybe thought of.
Yes, ma'am. And that's, I think we're all very confused about that. I am just as confused as you are about that. And the reason why we're waiting for a response from Miss Billingsley from the Franklin Police. And we're saying, the Franklin Police that are in our parking lot are telling us you guys continue to do what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. As a matter of fact, I will quote, some of them said, you are doing a fantastic job, end quote. So when we're getting that message from the Franklin police, then it becomes very confusing that.
Okay, you talking outside. I'm talking inside. Let's do inside.
Oh, inside, we were unaware of any allegations, any incidents. We've never been cited. You know, the gentleman, I forget his name, I apologize. He said you guys were serving underage. We've never been cited for serving underage. We check IDs. All of our people are TABC. They all have cards. They've taken the class. So, you know, again, he said, well, they looked young. Well, you know, I have some college age kids. They look very young.
And he stated that. He said he did not.
Yeah, no, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying, you know, trust me, we ID, it does our business no good at all to serve underage kids. We don't want that.
So if, I'm just throwing this out now, if I know that I could come to your establishment and there, based on some allegations that we've heard, drugs, drunkenness, insects, dogs. That sounds like a neat place to hang out if you of that mindset. Seem like for certain people, you can go to the Tin Roof 2 in Franklin, and as an old here, I'm like, yeah, you can go there, and guess what? Drugs, drunkenness, and you know what? You may be lucky to get sex. Well, that's what our public is telling us, like, what is going on there? So,
and yes, ma'am. And that is obviously horrific for business. And in 15 years, we are talking about one sex act that happened for 6 seconds at the bar, you know, on the other side of the bar, and we threw them out immediately. So it is one sex act. Now, what happened in the parking lot, you know, again, that's not inside our walls. There are not sex acts happening inside our building. People are eating wings. They're watching games. As a matter of fact, you mentioned the Titans. Many of them, retired Titans, come in and they are regulars and so on. But this is not. Again, you mentioned the drugs, and there were 2 gun possessions. These people were arrested for drugs on their bodies and gun possession, attempting to get in the tin roof. I think the officers can attest to that. They have not gone inside the tin roof and arrested people for drug use or drugs on their bodies. They are arresting these people coming and attempting to get into the tin roof. So it's very confusing when you hear in the public, oh, drug arrests at Tin Roof. I would assume, oh, that's inside. Drugs are being dealt in the bathroom or something like that. That is just simply not the case. Thank God for the police officers. They're arresting these people. I even know that there was someone that had a warrant out for their arrest, and they arrested them in the parking lot. That's fantastic. We love that.
Mr. Shear, Mr. McAfee, establishment, you mentioned children. Would your kids be comfortable in your establishment?
That's all 3 of my kids. It is their absolute favorite restaurant. They bring friends there all the time.
In the last 30 days, maybe. I guess the hours are important.
They don't go after 11 p.m.
Okay.
And so again, we believe that solves that issue.
I have a 2, a 5, and a 7-year-old, and yes,
a little young. They can eat the chicken wings probably around 5 o'clock.
Amazing burgers. Yeah, it's his favorite. So yes, once a week.
And when we do want our business,
let me just get. I think we may be wandering off in some areas where it's probably not. It's not necessary to be in as far as what we're looking at here. You should be looking at the facts of what's happened, what the testimony has said, and not necessarily whether the owner's children are eating chicken wings at the Tin Roof. So Alderman Bransford, let me give Alderman Martin a chance to answer a few questions. She may clear up a few things also. I have some questions relative to the testimony itself and some of the things that we have discussed too. So, Alderman Martin, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. First of all, I want to thank Sergeant Smalley, Sergeant Morgan, Sergeant Gomez, and Special Agent Lamprey for what they've done. They have gone above and beyond to be here today and to tell us what they have observed. I have several things I want to say. First of all, this is not an easy thing for me to do because my grandchildren have this as their number one place to go. And so believe me, I've gotten lots of calls from my grandchildren. They don't want anything to happen to the Tin Roof 2. But anyway, there are just some things that I am concerned about. First of all, I don't really care who spoke with whom about a letter or who called the police on these to come to this place for 200 and something calls that they made. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't care where the customers came from, whether they came from Nashville or Franklin. And we just don't want this kind of mess in Franklin. And I would say to these attractive young owners of the Tin Roof 2 that I appreciate everything you've said. I appreciate everything you've done, all the wonderful things you've done. But I just hate to see your establishment get this kind of reputation. And I got a letter, and I'm sure the rest of the board did too, from a woman who moved here in 2014 and had a very unhappy experience at Tin Roof 2. And she was very concerned that we had all of these reports, and she was hoping that we would do something about it. I think that the owners had to have known that these things were going on. This didn't just happen in May. It happened, you know, when you've got a business like this, where you've got alcohol flowing, where you've got people coming and maybe over drinking, you've got a responsibility that most businesses don't have. And this is one where they go out from your establishment and they're driving. And regardless of what you say about being responsible for your parking lot and what goes on outside, you are responsible. I don't care what your insurance company says. And if I were you, when this thing had started, when the pandemic started, or when the people started coming in from Nashville or wherever they were coming from, you should have gotten more security in that parking lot. Don't depend on our police officers. That's not their job. Their job is to help me and my home and the people in Franklin, and not be all having to answer calls to the Tin Roof 2. You know, it's fine that they've been there, and I'm glad they've been there, and that's their job too. But still, you need to be responsible with your own security and take care of these properties, your property and the people that come. You are responsible for their health, welfare, and safety. And I just think that the fact that it got this far, that it got to Friday, and conversation with Shauna Billingsley never should have happened. It never should have gotten to the city. It should have been taken care of when this stuff first started. And every one of you know what it is. Mr. O'Neill is there. He sees what goes on. He should be on the phone to these owners the first time something happens. Get this stuff stopped right on the front end. Don't let it go to a hearing or you know, you all are adults and you know what it takes. That is what, I could just go on forever, but this thing must come to a close. So that's the way I feel about it. It should have been done long before now. And Alderman Barnhill, that's my thought. The answer to Bill Squire's questions on the front end, my answer is yes to all of them. And I think every one of them could have been stopped by these owners because they've got eyes, they've got ears, they know exactly what's happening in their establishment. And if they don't, then they better hire somebody who can watch.
Thank you, Alderman Martin. My questions are going to be a little bit different. Maybe not different, but a little bit different. I think Sergeant Morgan testified that they had received 296 calls from January 1st to the last of September, 296 calls. I have some information here that was generated, and this just goes through August, and it says there was 162 calls from 1/1/20 to 8/31, of which 133 were generated from 5/2 of 20 through 8/31 of 20. We can argue and discuss whatever we want to on this. Personally, here's what I think. I think the Tin Roof has been a business that's been reputable for 14 and a half years. What I think has happened on that is that we've shut down Nashville, and I think you've had that. I don't think the owners have done a particularly good job of recognizing the parking lot issues and the inside issues. I do believe that once the police say they observe people intoxicated leaving the bar, coming out into the parking lot, I think those things are issues. I don't believe that Special Agent Ross Lampright testified that there were underage drinking. I think he said he observed people who looked young, but he made no checks on any ID, so he doesn't know whether these people were underage. I am concerned about the appearance at times where you're leading somebody to the back door to let them in. I'm assuming that's probably a regular customer that you have and you know who that is. I think you should be checking ID every day, whether they're there 6 days a week or 5 days a week or whatever. I am concerned, tremendously concerned about 40-something employees and being out of work and especially when they were just shut down and then they have an opportunity to come back. What I think happened here is I think you saw the influx in business and it was an opportunity to catch up some on business that you had lost during the COVID-19 shutdown. So I think you have to accept some responsibility. I think you probably have. I would have loved to have seen you go out and do the things that you're saying that you want to do now prior to coming to the beer board and the publicity that you've generated and the decisions that we have to make. Those are my comments. I'm going to ask our city attorney for the length of the revocation. What are you asking for? And somewhat off the cuff, which has nothing to do with the revocation, what does the hearings with the TABC have to do? And what is their nuisance request or summons? They've got three different things here. Shutting them to take away the beer permit, that doesn't shut them down. They're shut down because the doors are locked. Can you speak to that just a little bit and tell me what we're looking at? And then there's got to be some alternatives. There's got to be some timing on the beer permit revocation or whatever direction we need to go, because we've had these before, but not to this extent.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. Can I just add for Mr. Bill Squire to respond to as far as give us our options, because I know there usually are some different parameters based on something results from our discussion. Thank you.
Good comment. Alderman Bransford. Bill, if you, the parameter, the options that we have on this right here.
Sure. So I'll kind of comb back through the questions you just posed. You named the 3 actions that are happening right now. The TABC addresses the liquor license that's controlled by the state. The city controls the beer permit by state law. That's a city function. The 2 really don't interact with each other, although there are some required communications that go back and forth. So for instance, we have to notify the TABC if certain things happen. Obviously, as you heard, our police department and some of the TABC folks work together. But in terms of the permits themselves, they operate independently of each other. So that, I believe that was your first question.
Yes.
And you asked about the three different actions that are taking place right now. Those 3 are all independent of each other as well. So the TABC has addressed the liquor license. You all are addressing the beer permit. What's currently in front of the circuit court is an allegation by the city and the district attorney's office related to public nuisance claims as a matter of law before that court. That's what initiated the padlock order. That's what's going on now. Those questions are addressed with the court regardless of what happens with the licenses. So the court will find whatever it's going to find independent of what you and the TABC do. Does that answer your question?
I think that answers that question.
A lot of the evidence kind of overlaps. I think I understand your question. It's a lot of the same kind of issues and facts and maybe the same testimony, et cetera. But in terms of proceedings and how they operate, they're all independent from each other. In terms of how you all can address the license, we've asked that it be revoked. If it's revoked, generally under the beer ordinance, you're not allowed to reapply for, I believe it's a year. I'll pull it up and look at it. I'm just literally off the top of my head. I believe it's a year unless there's a change of ownership, and there's some limitations on how that change of ownership can work. You're also allowed to suspend for a particular period of time. And then there are some fining options available to you as well. You can issue fines. It gets a little tricky because this is a little different than some of the matters you all hear where it's just an allegation that someone underage was served. That's a much more straightforward kind of thing. This is a bit more broad-based in terms of how the place has been handled. This is really a question of nuisance and drain on law enforcement resources. So that's the part of the ordinance here that's triggered. So it's not quite as straightforward as someone underage was served, but you do have a range of options. Does that answer your question? I apologize. You're looking at me and I just want to be sure.
I think it answers my questions. I didn't hear the range of money options or whatever to the range of fines, but I understand we probably can do range of time as far as the revocation of the permit itself. With those comments from our city attorney.
You muted again.
From those comments, Alderman Bransford, Alderman Martin, do you have any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Well, go ahead, Margaret. Go ahead.
I just want to know what would be the particular times of suspension. Do we have an option there? And what are our options?
If you were to suspend, generally you would determine what that time period is. Revocation is the license is gone, it's revoked. And that's for good. The applicant or the permittee could reapply later, but there's a time limit. They have to wait, I believe it's a year, unless some other things happen. In terms of suspension, it becomes, they keep the permit, but it becomes inoperable. It can't be used. And in that instance, you all determine how long that should be.
Mr. Chairman and my fellow alderman, I personally am not into revoking. I would like to have a suspension of time. And if that, and what will, if certain things happen in the court, does that change things? Because don't we need to know what's going to happen in the courts, Bill?
Generally, no. As I said, those three things operate independently of each other. You all are looking at application of the ordinance. What's before the court is a separate question, and then the TABC is looking at its own rules and regulations. So there's a state level of control, there's a city level of control, and then there's an actual just legal claim in front of a court. So the court won't necessarily address what you all do as part of that lawsuit. If the court should address what you all do, it would be a separate claim of some kind that comes after whatever you all do this today, whatever you do. But that lawsuit that's before the circuit court right now will not affect the license or the permit automatically.
Mr. Chairman, I would, I don't know whether I just kind of put it out there, 60 to 90 day suspension with some monetary fine.
Would you like to put that in the form of a motion and probably put a specific time on the suspension of the license as well as a monetary fine?
Help me here with the monetary fine, because I'm a big dollar girl. No.
We probably have. I think there's a limit on what we can fine. So if you did a 90-day, and I'm just making this, if you did a 90-day suspension, you probably could go with, and help me, Bill, on this, $1,000, $1,500 fine. Is there a limit on the amount that we can fine as well as suspend, or do we need to just stay in with one remedy for this?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to do both. I would like to, and let me make a motion. I move that we recognize a 90-day suspension with a $1,500 fine for the violation that has been presented to us by Tin Roof 2.
That is a proper motion. Do I hear a second? The chair will second that, and then we'll open up that particular motion for discussion. Alderman Martin, do you have any questions or comments on that?
Yes, I do. Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Margaret.
I've lost my screen. I do have something to say. I would like to add, before I vote on anything with that small, I would like an assurance from the owners that those two items that they mentioned would be done, and that is the 11 o'clock for curfew and the and for them to hire their own security people for the parking lot. Really, even more than that, because I wouldn't want our police officers to have to keep going out there for that kind of stuff. So
Margaret, okay. I would
yes.
definitely add that to my motion, because they hadn't mentioned a plan, and I think that plan should be part of the motion. And you're right. So whatever addendum you want to add, that'd be great.
Might I say something here, if I may? The plan is done to remediate traffic due to the shutdown in Davidson County. And if this beer license is pulled for 3 months, that restriction likely won't be there in Davidson County, which means we go back to the old Tin Roof 2. It would be a moot point to have limited hours. And on another just thought here, I don't know if you guys can modify the motion, but 90 days might be the death penalty for this business.
If I can interject there, Kevin,
no,
please.
Jason, you can.
Well, we're out of business. I can, because if we're closed for 90 days.
You're not closed for 90 days. You can't serve alcohol for 90 days.
Well, but obviously, that is a big part of what we do. A big part
Which brings me to my next point. I would respectfully request that the board consider a lesser penalty, perhaps 30 days plus a monetary fine, and a commitment to the plan to reduce traffic to the business. Considering this is the first time they've been in front of the board, I think that would be an appropriate an appropriate proposal that might put them in a position to preserve their business.
Mr. Chairman, since I made the motion, I would agree to that, but the monetary fine would have to be significantly higher. A 30-day suspension with a $3,000 monetary fine, and the comments that Attorney Thompson mentioned as far as the plan, and Margaret, your comments about what those detailed plan statements are. We're not trying to put anybody out of business. We want you to understand the significance of what happened, the community that we have to answer to as elected officials, and the safety in our police department and others in the city of Franklin. So that's where we're working from, because we want those 40 employees to continue to find work and work in our city. Those are tax dollars for us. Every day that you're closed, we don't make tax dollars. Do you know that, Mr. Shearer and Mr. McAfee? So it's very important for us to have our businesses open and working in good order. So it's not our intention to be unduly punitive to you all. It's that we need you to know that this is significant, this is important, and we need you to accommodate and be responsible going forward, because other things will happen. There may be some underage activity coming in the future. You don't know that, but you got to be prepared.
I'm going to restate, hopefully, Alderman Bransford's motion, and that motion is to suspend the beer permit license for 30 days with a $3,000 fine, with the guarantee that the applicants will adhere to the agreements that they've made. That's to close at 11 o'clock, adhere to the guidelines of Nashville. If Nashville opens up sooner, they may want, we'll go back and look at that. And also hiring additional security staff for the parking lot and some of the things, some of the areas which they've agreed to do. That's the motion now that's in front of us. Do I hear a second on that motion?
Second.
Alderman Bransford, you made the motion.
Well, I thought I gave it to you. You said it so well.
Oh, okay.
Clyde, would you say that? Do you mind repeating that?
Yeah, we would suspend the license for 30 days. There will be a $3,000 fine. All of that will be contingent upon the applicants guaranteeing us that they will close at 11 o'clock, adhere to the guidelines of closure for Nashville, and that they will hire additional security staff to patrol the parking lot and be more cognizant of the inside activities that are going on.
Well,
and so that I understand, I just want to make sure, Mr. Bonio, are you making that motion, or is that Pearl's motion?
I was trying to I'm sorry. I was trying to clear up and clarify what Pearl's motion was.
Okay, so let me move what you just said. So move. So it's still my motion.
So I made the motion. Alderman Bransford second.
Yeah. Does the recorder have?
Okay, let's go back the other way then. Pearl made the motion. I made the second.
Now we got to vote.
Now are there any discussions on the motion?
Yes. I'm not going to support the motion because I'm just not sure that 30 days is enough. You know, I'm not going to support it. That's all right. So I'll just, when you take the vote, I'm going to vote no.
Then let's do a voice call vote on this motion. Alderman Bransford, how do you vote?
I vote yes, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Martin, how do you vote?
No.
Chair votes yes. Motion passes 2-1. And I would assume that there is no other business to come before this committee. Bill, do you have any? since he's not listening,
I do not. Thank
then
you.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
But one other question for Mr. Squire. How will we know, follow up? Who will and how will we know? And what is the next step that this indeed will be done, or money will be paid, or whatever? You in the city here will take care of that.
I can collaborate with Mr. Squires if that works for him.
Okay. We just don't want the ball to be dropped and we're looking at 30 days later and we're still trying to figure out what happened. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson.
We can do that.
Move for dismissal, adjournment.
The proper motion. Second.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Alderman Bransford, how do you vote?
Yes, we have to vote on leaving.
Yes, we do. Alderman Martin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
I'm not sure anybody want to stay.
No. Goodbye.